Half a day and good afternoon. The hearing is hereby called to order. Today is February 24th, 2026. The time is 2:05 p.m. This is a continuation of the joint oversight hearing of the Committee on Transportation, Tourism, Customs, Utilities, and Federal and Foreign Affairs. The original hearing was convened on February 16, 2026, during which this committee completed the joint segment on airport concessions and bond implications, as well as Guam International Airport Authority segment. Due to time constraints, the committee recessed prior to taking up the remaining agenda items. Today's hearing is a continuation of the same proceedings. This continuation of hearing is duly noticed in accordance with the Open Government Law, with the first notice issued on February 17, 2026. Second notice issued on February 20th, 2026. For the record, the only remaining item on today's agenda is the Guam Visitors Bureau segment. All other agenda items were addressed during the February 16, 2026 hearing. But towards the end, we'll probably just get an update from the Airport Authority. I don't think Gita is going to be here today, but the Airport Authority, maybe just an update on the information that we received last week as well. So just an update on that at the end here. We're resuming precisely where we left off. On February 16th, this committee held a series of substantive discussions on airport concession, bond exposure, and long-term financial posture for Guam's tourism and aviation infrastructure. We also heard from the Guam International Airport Authority regarding air service levels, capital improvements, and coordination with tourism partners. Those discussions underscored one thing clearly. Tourism recovery is no longer theoretical. It is happening, but sustaining it will require discipline, coordination, and accountability. Today's continuation focuses on the Guam Visitors Bureau, the agency responsible for translating air service, marketing investments, and the visitor experience to sustain economic activity for our island. This is not about revisiting what has already been covered. It is about completing the record. Before we bring up GVB, I want to address governance and public trust. Several GVB board members have raised concerns that the issue is less about travel itself and more about process, visibility, and governance. They've shared frustration that while they want to see GVB succeed and actively support rebuilding tourism, the board's ability to provide meaningful oversight can feel limited when key initiatives, including travel, move forward without prior board-level discussion. In some instances, board members have indicated they were learning about major activities through press releases or public announcements rather than through regular board meetings and briefing materials. That creates a perception that the board is being asked to own outcomes without a consistent opportunity to review decisions in advance. The perception among board members and frankly among stakeholders and the general public is that restoring it is a reasonable step to reinforce accountability and rebuild trust. Let me be clear. The goal is not to block mission-driven travel. The goal is to ensure public dollars are aligned with strategy, discussed transparently, and approved through appropriate governing body. This is why Senator Duenas and I introduced Bill number 279-38. The public hearing for that measure is scheduled for Wednesday, March 4th at 10 a.m. I look forward to that discussion. We look forward to that discussion as well. At this time, we will proceed with the Guam Visitors Bureau, the final item on today's agenda. I call on GVB Board Chair, Mr. George Chu, GVB President and CEO, Ms. Regine Bisco-Lee, to come forward, along with whomever the board and management wish to have on their panel. And before we start, because I think there are some members here that may have not been sworn in, Sergeant at Arms. Yeah.
Okay. Please raise your right hand. Under penalty of perjury, do you affirm that any and all information you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, and in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay. Mr. Chair, Dondroth, you may proceed.
Thank you, Sarge. I'd like to also introduce Battles join us today to the Vice Chair of the Committee, Senator Dueñas. Thank you for joining us. Vice Speaker Tonieta, thank you for joining us. Committee members as well, Senator Gumatautau and Senator Vince Borja. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this afternoon. Mr. Chu, you may state your name and title for the record and introduce the members of your panel again, and you may proceed with your presentation.
Chairman, Vice Chairman, members of the board. My name is George Chu, and I'm the chairman of the Guam Visitors Bureau Board of Directors. And I'll go ahead and let our president and CEO, Regine Biscoli, make the introduction for the rest of the team.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, our board chairman, Chairman Chu, and board members that are in attendance here. My name is Regine Biscoli. I'm the president and CEO of the Guam Visitors Bureau. We also have Dr. Jerry Paris, our vice president here. Nadine Leon Guerrero, the director of global marketing. Christian Valencia, the director of tourism research. Ina Carrillo, the director of destination development. And our CFO, Rudgood Malin.
I'm going to keep my opening statement short. Chairman, I apologize for being absent from the first day of the oversight hearing last week. It was Chinese New Year's Eve, so I was unfortunately off island. I am here today, and I understand it's a continuation of the meeting. The only statement I'd like to say is that the GVB is here to work with you and the legislature to make sure that we work together and continue to push Guam forward in terms of tourism. And I do want to make a comment like in regards to if there's any misunderstanding between what the Oversight Committee thinks and what GVB has, we're here to resolve any and clear up any misunderstanding and answer any of your questions that you may have today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And you can proceed with your presentation. Yeah.
Once again, Hafaday, Mr. Chairman, and members of Iminachantayotsu na legislature in Guahan. Having sat on the other side of this dais, I understand the question at the heart of this hearing. Why hasn't tourism returned to the successes of 2019? And who is responsible until it does? That is a fair question. But long before government, I was a student at University of Washington and spent years studying the hard sciences. And in the sciences, when something changes, we do not begin with blame. We begin with data. Because data doesn't care who's in charge. Data does not respond to politics. It does not bend to narrative. Data either holds up under examination or it doesn't. So before we talk about responsibility, we have to talk about reality. Tourism is not governed by any one person's opinion. It is governed by capacity and appeal. Visitors arrive in airplane seats, and in 2019, Guam welcomed 1.6 million visitors. That year, we had roughly 38,000 to 40,000 international seats arriving each week. To simplify that, let's think of that as 40 buses pulling up to our island every week. So today, in 2026, we have approximately 22 to 25 seats per week. So that's about 24 buses pulling up every week instead of the 40 that we enjoyed in 2019. We're operating at roughly 60 to 65% of the lift capacity that we had in 2019. If you remove 16 buses, you cannot carry the same number of passengers. That is not interpretation, it's arithmetic. So what happened to the missing lift? This is not unique to Guam. The International Air Transport Association described the pandemic's impact as, quote, structural reduction in fleet capacity, noting that airlines accelerated retirement of wide-body aircraft worldwide. These wide-body aircraft were the backbone of long Pacific routes like Guam. At the same time, Boeing publicly acknowledged ongoing delivery delays due to supply chain constraints and limiting airlines' ability to rebuild these fleets. And the US Government Accountability Office, or the GAO, reported that pilot attrition and training pipeline disruptions reduced airline scheduling capacity nationwide after COVID. So globally, planes were retired, new planes were delayed, pilots were in short supply, aircraft were reassigned to the highest yield routes first. Even major destinations, including Hawaii, struggled for years to restore Japan Airlift to pre-pandemic levels. Aircraft are finite assets. They cannot be created by marketing campaigns. They cannot be scheduled if they do not physically exist. In 2019, we had about 40 buses per week. Today, we have 24. Until those buses return, the ceiling is defined by seats, and that is where any serious discussion must begin. Mr. Chair, I also appreciate the question and the committee's oversight responsibility. Travel was not included in last week's original oversight agenda, and when the hearing was recessed and continued to today, the issue was raised again at the outset of the proceedings. We did incorporate updated travel data into today's presentation to help provide context. That said, we had previously heard similar concerns, and we believe the appropriate response was not rhetoric, but data. So our team conducted a comprehensive review of general manager travel over the past 8 fiscal years, spanning 3 prior administrations. The results are clear. In fiscal year 25, this office reflects one of the lowest total trip counts in that period and the lowest average per diem. We will gladly provide that report to the committee. More importantly, GVB's mission is relationship-driven and market-facing. Tourism is not managed remotely. It is negotiated, it is cultivated, and sustained in person. Our source markets with our airline, trade, and industry partners need to be in person. These trips are not discretionary, they are strategic. They are structured around defined objectives, measurable benchmarks, and performance-based outcomes tied directly to seat capacity and arrivals. Oversight is appropriate, Mr. Chair. Accountability is expected, and we are confident that the facts reflect both fiscal discipline and operational necessity. Again, we thank you for the opportunity to provide an update on the work that we are undertaking to strengthen and reset Guam's tourism industry. And if we can go to our PowerPoint presentation, this is number 7 on the agenda, so the opening brief and tourism recovery strategy and market outlook. Mr. Chair, our focus has been clear and deliberate. We are not simply working to bring visitors back, we are working to improve the overall experience of Guam as a destination and to position our island for long-term sustainable growth. That includes the development of new signature events that drive demand, meaningful destination improvements that enhance the visitor journey, strong and targeted marketing campaigns in our source markets, cooperative programs with our airline and travel trade partners, and a renewed commitment to collaboration with our local industry stakeholders. These initiatives are strategic and data-driven. They are aligned with measurable goals and tied directly to visitor arrivals, air capacity, yield, and visitor satisfaction. I am pleased to report that our efforts are gaining traction in our key markets. We are seeing positive movement in arrivals and continued improvements in visitor satisfaction scores over the past several months. While there's still a lot of work to be done, the direction is encouraging. We look forward to walking you through the details of our progress in the presentation that follows and to continuing this important conversation about the future of tourism for Guam. If we can go to the next slide on board management structure, roles, and working relationship. Next slide. And this details at the very top of our organizational chart, the board of directors, and underneath it is the general manager, president and CEO. Beneath that, the deputy general manager and vice president. And then we also have an executive committee made up of directors on our board. Beneath that, as part of the management team, we have research, destination management, visitor safety and satisfaction, membership, cultural heritage and community outreach, recovery, administration and governance, North America, Pacific, Philippines, and New Markets Committee, the Sports and Events Committee, Taiwan Marketing Committee, Korea Marketing Committee, and Japan Marketing Committee. Next slide. There was an indication on the agenda to discuss governance purpose and legal basis. And so this just identifies the legal establishment and structure of the Guam Visitors Bureau based on our enabling legislation, membership autonomy, statutory purpose and authority, and our collaborative operational model. And the source of this, again, is 12 GCA, Chapter 9. Next slide. Roles and responsibilities of the board and the general manager. And so the board directs policy, sets strategy, and focuses and oversees fiduciary and operational accountability. The general manager or president's operational role is to execute those board priorities, manage daily operations, and supervise personnel to promote tourism and to carry out GVB's mission. There's also a separation of authority. So there's a statutory separation that ensures clear distinction between the board's policy setting and the GM's execution roles, as well as accountability and compliance. So the GM or president ensures compliance with board rules and supports decision-making with operational data and plans. Next slide. This goes into the lines of authority and reporting structure. The general manager and president must provide monthly accounting, annual plans, and attend board meetings to ensure transparency, which we have done every single month. Accountability and transparency, again, we welcome this. Regular communication and financial disclosure to keep operational decisions visible to the board for accountability. I meet with my board chairman every single month prior to our meeting to go over all of our, to discuss and provide communication and financial disclosure. Enforcement of rules. The GM and president enforces the board rules and ensures compliance with statutory and regulatory requirements, and then effective governance structure. Next slide. In terms of decision-making framework, there's requirements for a board quorum. We have 11, there's supposed to be 11 board members and 12 board members and 1 alternate. And so the quorum for the board is 8 directors. Any official board action or resolution requires an affirmative vote of the 8 directors. So any information that's discussed about any issue is typically brought forward in a board resolution. And so that's the way that the enabling legislation kind of outlines how the board would take a position on policy or any other issue. Meeting protocol, regular board meetings are held monthly, typically the last Thursday of every month, and special meetings may be called by the chair, vice chair, or on instruction from any 2 directors. Next slide. In terms of oversight, controls, and risk management, these are also delineated in the in this part of the law. So board authority and governance, financial control measures, audit and accountability. I just want to pause here and maintain that GVB has enjoyed clean audits for the better part of the last decade. And then in terms of purchase orders and letters of authorization over $25,000, all of those require board approval to ensure fiduciary oversight and prevent unauthorized spending. For the next slide, I'll have our Vice President take over.
Thank you, President Regine. Excuse me. talk a little bit about the HR function of the Bureau. As Chief Administrative Officer, the General Manager and President of the GVB has statutory authority to manage employee selection, supervision, and termination to ensure organizational performance.
I'm sorry, can we move to the next slide? Thank you. HR role.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was just trying to say that as Chief Administrative Officer, the General Manager has statutory authority to manage employee selection, supervision, and termination to ensure organizational performance. The Board adopts personnel rules for classified employees under legal frameworks, ensuring transparent and merit-based HR policies. The HR function is a compliance-based function aligned with statutes, board policies, and procedural safeguards to maintain discipline and legality. And the bedrock of these HR functions is embedded in the GovGuam personnel rules and regulations as administered by the Department of Administration. Next slide is procurement. Also, as Chief Procurement Officer, the General Manager oversees a lot of the procurement functions of the Bureau, and the overarching theme, basically, of this function is to maximize competitive opportunities and value for money. GVB has brought legal authority to enter into contracts and execute instruments to fulfill its mission. Financial control, the General Manager approves payment demands within board limits to ensure internal financial controls as well. And the board administers grant funds, managing solicitation, receipt, and allocation of applications. The framework of these grants align with GVB priorities in community support, brand articulation, and enhancement of the Destination Guam experience. Next. You want to take this one? Yeah.
In terms of board operational continuity and accountability, we have vacancy and appointment procedures, removal mechanisms, term limits, governance stability and accountability. And again, these are all laid out in our enabling legislation. Next slide. In terms of KPIs or key performance indicators, we have mandated data that the board is required to collect, analyze, and publish comprehensive data on the visitor industry, which serves as the primary KPI framework. Required data points include visitor numbers, expenditures, hotel occupancy, taxes collected, jobs created and lost, and the percentage of U.S. and permanent residents employed in the industry. In terms of reporting, the General Manager's duty is to publish the financial report within 120 days at the fiscal year end, which links operational execution to these measurable outcomes. Next slide. And Mr. Chair, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, marketing campaigns and return on investment, unless there are any questions. Proceed. Okay, thank you. We've had pretty good results with our marketing campaigns, very strong ROI, but that's just one part of the overall Guam experience. Keeping our island beautiful is a huge part of the work that we do at GVB, really making Guam the best place to live, work, and visit. Next slide. In terms of marketing, promotions, and strategy, we have projects and campaigns that are designed to drive market demand, strengthen the Guam brand in a competitive environment. Each of our marketing promotions has goals and SMART goals attached to it, in addition to ROI stated per activity. Each of these items are brought before the board every single month. We report on them before we go, and then we report on them after when we get back. Next slide. In terms of the markets, Korea and Japan remain our core markets, and we're also focused on developing markets like Taiwan, Philippines, and the US. So all of these 5 markets, we have regular direct service to these different markets. And then we are focused also on new markets of Malaysia and Singapore. One of the reasons why is those are both visa-free countries. And we're also targeting a number of these other countries that are listed under the Guam CNMI visa waiver. So that's Australia, Brunei, Hong Kong, Japan, Malaysia, Nauru, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, South Korea, Singapore, Taiwan, and the UK. Currently, there's no fee to apply, and they're not subject to any additional fees recently added by the US federal government. Next slide. In terms of marketing examples, one good example that was launched last year was the docudrama series that we did through TV Tokyo. It was called Why I'm With You. And Mr. Chair, this investment was allowed for GVB and the island of Guam to reach an estimated 1.5 million Japanese residents with 1.5 million views per episode. It was the highest rated docudrama series ever in the history of productions that TV Tokyo has been doing. And so this docudrama inspired pilgrimage tours. So you can see on the different episodes, they were at different places all around the island. They were right, here in front of the Guam legislature, or across the street at Plaza de España. And so now there are pilgrimage tours where they're taking visitors from Japan to visit all of these different sites that were featured in the docudrama series. And how we know this is arrivals are trending higher than the Japan outbound travel. So last year, Japan outbound travel estimated at an increase of 12%, but Guam's Japanese inbound was an increase of 21.6%. So we're even beating the Japan outbound numbers for 2025. Next slide. Some marketing examples out of Korea. In terms of the travel trade, we have the grand sale promotions, very strong performance through collaborations with airlines, travel agencies, and digital channels. And Mr. Chair and committee members, I just want to note that it's important, the work that GVB does, but we realize that our budget and our resources are limited and finite. And so we really work closely with a lot of our airline partners, our travel agencies, online travel agents, digital channels to help use their platforms to amplify our message. And so we've been getting this out with Kids Fly Free campaigns, online travel agency air tickets, that's the 1+1 campaign, as well as influencer flash sales, which are incredibly strong and provide a good return on our investment, as well as competitive airfare and hotel promotions that we work with our local providers to put together, early bird fares, hotel early check-in and late checkout, and F&B discounts. Next slide. There was some news last week about travel to IMEX, and so I wanted to take a moment and highlight IMEX America and the work that we did with TCS World Travel in particular. So GVB worked with TCS World Travel, which is a luxury travel company providing all-inclusive jet expeditions and custom itineraries. They are the world's most awarded private jet expedition company. So TCS World Travel has included Guam in their 2024 and 2025 itinerary called Cultural Encounters, which includes a 23-day tour of 9 destinations for 52 high-end guests. And the cost of this package is $250,000 a person. So they're paying $250,000 to get a seat on this ultra-luxury airplane that they're only servicing 52 passengers. And they were able to, because of our work at IMEX America, over the past several years that we've been going to this trade show, this group has continued to come to Guam and market Guam on their site for cultural encounters. Next slide. Another thing that was raised in the media was ITB Asia. And so we just wanted to highlight Richmond International Travel and Tours in Taiwan. That was a connection that we made through our ITB Asia participation. This company visited Guam to evaluate potential for golf packages, and we continue to work with them. We also focus on MICE in Asia, which is meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions. Thank you. And MICE in Asia, we secured free advertising on their platform, so some good return on investment there, as well as Miles and Voyage Perks Travel and Tours Philippines, which is a group that's scheduled to arrive in just a few short weeks, April of 2026. As well as Technical Communications Intelligent Japan. This is also a trip planned for Guam and Palau in April 2026 for high-end clients. So there's a tremendous return on investment every time GVB goes out. Again, if we're not in the room, we're not on the itinerary. Next slide. In terms of public-private partnerships, we have active co-op agreements with several partners in all of our core and developing markets. So that's airlines, travel agents, hotels, restaurants. And we have additional driven promotions paired with branding to really rebuild our volume and attract quality visitors. Next slide. We are asked to speak about airlift support and airline incentive coordination. Next slide. We're really happy to continue our weekly meetings with our partners over at the airport. So we meet with them every single week regarding arrivals and do a lot of continued coordination, both on the marketing side as well as logistics. The support also funds the support funds were specifically used for airlines to increase seat capacity to Guam. So we have regular meetings with airlines in our source markets. That includes United, Korean Air, T-Way, Jin Air, Air Busan, Air Seoul, Philippine Airs, Japan Airlines, China Airlines, Starlux Airlines, Jeju, Air Premier, Air OK, Peach, and Jetstar. And it's really important, Mr. Chair, to continue to meet with these folks and that we're staying top of mind and right in front of them, answering any questions they may have about their existing service to Guam or potential future charters or potential future direct service. Next slide. In terms of air service development, we are investing in securing airline seats in a very competitive environment, as I mentioned before. In FY25, we grew seat capacity for Korea from 360,000 to 495,000 seats. And this is in part due to my predecessor and the good work that the team had done to have some savings from FY23 and 24 that they were able to leverage into these incentives for FY25. So the incentives are being offered in FY26, thanks in large part to the work of this legislature and the support that we received in the last budget. And this will now expand not just to Korea, but offered in Japan, Taiwan, and in the Philippines. Next slide. Sorry, I just wanted to take a pause there. Nadine, was there anything you wanted to add? Okay. In terms of destination development and visitor experience, I'll turn it over to Ina Carrillo, so I'm not hogging the mic this whole time. So Ina, if you want to walk us through the next few slides.
Yes, Madam President. Hafaday, I'm Ina Carrillo. I'd like to thank the senators, Chairman Lujan, Senator Taitigui, Senator Duenas, Borja, Gumatao, and Vice Speaker Ada. Thank you for having us today. In the Destination Development Department, there are 3 divisions: cultural and heritage, sports and programs, and safety and maintenance. Next slide. In destination, we've been creating and developing GVB signature events. One of them, the Tumon Night Market. It's a new night market in the heart of the tourism district. It really does offer an opportunity for small businesses to connect with our locals and visitors. And because of the success of this event, it draws crowds of up to 3,000 people per week, with new themes every week to keep it fresh. Our second event is the Guam International Dance Festival, GIDF. Its inaugural event brought over 20 plus groups from all over the region. And it really laid the foundation to position Guam as a regional center of dance. Because of its success of the 2025 event, the 2026 GIDF is slated for December 4th through 6th of this year. These events were also launched in the last year as recommended by the Recovery Committee. Just mention that. Next slide. In the maintenance department, you can see our beach maintenance. I'm sorry, excuse me. Our beach maintenance guys, they are, I'm stumbling, sorry. We maintain the beaches. We rake and clean the beaches on a daily basis beginning at 5 a.m. in the morning. And that's not only Tumon Bay, but also Ganya Bay. Next slide. We have a land crew that also does the maintenance within Tumon. They begin at 5 o'clock in the morning as well, and here's some photos. They manage landscaping and beautification of Polycemetors Road. Next slide. Our destination maintenance groups also in the villages. You can see that we are working to assist the mayors in restoring the village signs. Last week, we were actually in Humatec and Maleso. Again, GVB pitching in to assist the mayors to maintain these village signs. Next slide. Visitor safety. And next slide. Our visitor safety, you can see here our VSOs. Our visitor safety officers have been providing pedestrian assistance since January 30th of this year. This support will continue until the Department of Public Works is able to repair the crosswalk button. So in any instance that there's any assistance needed at GVB, we always step in just to assist to make sure that safety of our visitors are a priority. I'd like to also mention a fun, well, not a fun fact, but our touch points. At GVB, our management team, we make decisions grounded in real data, not guesswork. Here's a snapshot of just one key metric that we measure. It's our visitor touch points. And you can see the picture here illustrates that. These are direct interactions with the VSOs have with our visitors. We call them touch points, and they can consist of anything from answering questions to giving directions, taking pictures, or even assisting with crossing busy streets like you can see in this picture here. Also, changing flat tires or even directing traffic. In the last quarter of 2025 alone, VSOs recorded over 17,000 touch points in October alone. That's 17,000 individual interactions with our visitors. In November, we had just under 15,000, and then in December, we had well over 17,000. For the last quarter of last year, that was nearly 50,000 documented touch points between our VSOs and our visitors. Next slide. Again, here's a slide of our VSOs. We have them scattered throughout the villages. We have them stationed in various tour sites, such as Fort Apugan, Inalahan Pools, Mariso Pier, and Fort Soledad to expand visitor safety outside of Tumon. Next slide, please. Our BSOs, our beach safety officers, they play a critical role in beach safety at Matapang and Ipal Beach. Their presence is essential to maintaining beach safety and ensuring the well-being of our visitors. Next slide, please. Visitor safety, our rapid response and interagency coordination. When a pressing situation occurs, GVB's team responds rapidly in coordination with other relevant agencies. For example, on February 7, 2026, a robbery occurred. GVB activated its on-site concierge service immediately. GVB stayed in constant communication with the Guam Police Department and the Korean Consulate, providing updates for the victims and ensuring that the victim's identity remained protected while the suspects were still at large. GVB and its members provided the family with translation, logistical support, coordination assistance, and lodging until the family departed Guam. Next slide. And back to signature events. This is one that's coming up in April. It's our Cocoa Weekend, Cocoa Road Race in 2026. It's a 2-day event consisting of our first event on Saturday, April 11th. It's our kids fun run. And then the following day, Sunday, April 12th, it's the half marathon and 5K Ekiden relay race, all located starting at Ipao Beach Park. So I encourage the body to form an Ekiden team and sign up with GVB. You can do that at visitguam.com/coco. Yes, yes, Chairman, I challenge you. Yes. I think that's it for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ina. Next slide. And for finance, if Mr. Goodmalin can walk us through.
Next slide, please. Hafa-Adai Senators, Chairman, Vice Chair, and Honorable Senators, we were asked to provide an update on GVB's financial health, and this graph aims to achieve that. And so to provide you with an update, we wanted to present the status of the TAF. As we all know, the TAF provides a majority of GVB's revenue source, so its financial health has a direct correlation to GVB's health. This chart provides a monthly perspective of the TAF's performance, utilizing data from the Special Revenue Fund Report, which is issued by BBMR. For your reference, the gray bar shows or displays the projected revenue levels for each month, whereas the green bars show the actual cash collections. When we look at the month of October, you can see that we started the fiscal year with revenues slightly lower than projected levels. However, as we progress through the next few months, we can see an increase as displayed by the upward trend of the chart. The momentum began in November, where actual collections exceeded projections by 2%. December continued the same momentum, with revenues exceeding by 5.6%. And January had the strongest performance for the fiscal year, with actual cash collections of $3.4 million, which exceeded revenue projections by 14%. So overall, just based on the data published, the TAF is performing well, and it's on track with its revenue projections. Next slide, please.
Thanks, Fred. And Christian, can you walk us through some performance metrics and reporting?
Yes. Thank you, President Lee, and good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. And thank you for the opportunity to present today. This particular section focuses on performance metrics and some reporting, specifically how Guam tourism is performing, what the numbers tell us, and how we're using data to guide some of our decision making. Next slide, please. We'd like to show you the full calendar year 2025 arrivals. For 2025, Guam welcomed 782,840 visitors, and that's representing a almost 6% increase year over year. Korea remains our largest market at nearly half of total arrivals, followed by Japan at about 1/3. Japan showed the strongest major market, core market rebound, growing over 21% year over year. We also saw meaningful growth from some of our developing markets, such as the Philippines and Taiwan, due to our newly established direct routes. Our visitor arrival reports include only true visitor arrivals. This data is derived directly from the electronic declaration form and is filtered to remove resident arrivals. So what you're seeing here reflects tourism demand only, not returning residents or local travel activity. And for the next few slides, I'll turn it over to President Lee.
Thank you, Christian. Next slide. We presented this at a media roundtable last month, but I just wanted to walk everyone through it really quickly. Next slide. So we'll take it back to November of 2024. Next slide. There was an air service mission to Korea, and this is prior to my time, but members from GVB as well as the airport met with a number of our air service partners in November of 2024. And following that meeting, next slide, we saw Korean Airlines upgrading their aircraft for added capacity. So they went from 272 seats to 338, so from a narrow body to a wide body. Next slide. Again, in March, same scenario. They upgraded a second aircraft for added capacity. And then I also just want to note that I came on board this time last year. Next slide. In April 2nd, United Airlines began direct service from Taipei to Guam, and then there was also a second air service mission to both Korea and Japan. And again, this was a combined one Guam approach with GVB representatives as long as representatives for the airport. Next slide. We want to move into the second half of the year. So Korean Airlines, Jeju Air, Jin Air, all added flights for additional capacity to Guam following our air service mission in April. And that was in May. Next slide. May through September. In July 29th, GVB presented a breakdown of $11.1 million request to the legislative members for FY 2026. In August 19th, we again came before the body to discuss and answer questions about the $11 million request for air incentives and marketing support to the Committee of the Whole. Next slide. And then September 29th, Public Law 38-60 was passed, which included $10 million for airline incentives, and that was a law for FY 2026. Next slide. Also want to note that in FY 2025, the results were 495,470 airline seats for Korea. That was based off of our initial incentive program. Next slide. October 1st and ongoing, GVB continues to negotiate with Korean carriers for FY 2026. And then on October 7th, we signed an MOA with Philippine Airlines for direct flights from Cebu. Next slide. In March, in response to some challenges with foreign exchange, GVB continued and launched and continued our Go Go Guam Half a Day campaign to provide added value for our guests in November. And then as Ina mentioned, next slide, in December, we had our first Guam International Dance Festival, which featured 21 performance groups from Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Malaysia, and Guam. Next slide. GVB received our first allotment December 15th of $3.8 million from DOA. And then the very next day, we launched our first Cebu to Guam direct flight. Next slide. And next again. Because of the support we received, we were able to provide that double-digit growth for the latter part of last year. And then again, in January of 2026, we received our second allotment of $2.1 million from DOA. Next slide. And this is kind of the full snapshot. Next slide. So we went from negative 18% year over year with 67,316 seats in January. Next. Kind of a sad story. January, March, April, May started kind of returning, and then in June we had our first monthly positive growth for calendar year 25 at a 3.95% increase year over year. Next slide. And then the remainder of calendar year 25. And I'll turn it back over to Christian. Next slide.
Next slide, please. Thank you, President Lee. We have a January 2026 arrivals for you, and looking at January visitor arrivals were up by 4.6% compared to January 2025. Japan continues to lead recovery and rebound. Japan in particular posted double-digit growth again at about 19%, reinforcing our momentum going into the new year. With regards to Taiwan, we're down by 1%, and this is due to our loss in seat capacity in January 25, and we're slightly recovering those seats in January 26. We would have been in worse shape this month for Korea, but it's good news seeing we're only down by 1%. And with regards to Taiwan, Lunar New Year was a bit earlier last year, and we should see these numbers recover in February. We also had a bunch of charters last year, and now we have the direct service from Taipei, but we also did have some flight cancellations earlier in January. So we should see better numbers in February for Taiwan. From a fiscal year to date perspective, next slide, please. Visitor arrivals are up by about 24% overall. Korea grew at about 31%, and Japan grew over 24%. These are strong, sustained increases from our core markets. While the U.S.-Hawaii segment remains a little bit softer, the overall mix reflects a healthy international recovery and expanding market activity for Guam. Next slide, please. So that was about mostly volume, right? Now we want to get into a little bit of quality, I'm sorry. We're providing some visitor profiles here for the committee in terms of South Korea. The average South Korean visitor travels in a party of about 4 and stays just over 4 nights and spends nearly $2,000 per party on island. The top spending categories here include accommodations, activities, shopping, and of course, food and beverage, meaning that tourism dollars circulate broadly across our economy. And this is not just arrival growth for us, this is economic impact growth. And we're also seeing higher spending from our Korean visitors. And if you remember, this is specifically the market that we deployed airline incentives in fiscal year 2025. Now for the next slide, for our visitor profile for Japan, our Japanese visitors show a slightly shorter stay, but remain high-value travelers. They travel in similarly sized groups than our Korean visitors, and they spend over $1,100 per party on island. Their spending distribution also supports multiple sectors of our tourism economy, spending in similar categories, of course, accommodations topping the categories, and then activities, shopping, and transportation. So together, Korea and Japan form a balanced foundation for us, a strong volume, and we're seeing a lot of double-digit growth from Japan every month, and some meaningful per visitor spending and some broad economic reach from our core markets here. Next slide, please. In terms of satisfaction, it remains strong here for South Korea. They rated their overall Guam experience on a scale of 1 to 10, an 8. Or 8.03 here, with especially high marks for friendliness, safety, and attractions. Now, these ratings matter because satisfaction directly drives repeat visitation and word-of-mouth promotion, 2 of the most cost-effective growth channels that we have. For Japan, the next slide, please. Our Japanese visitors rated Guam even higher at about 8.2 out of 10. They scored friendliness, safety, attractions, and accommodations particularly well. And the takeaway here is clear, and that recovery is not coming at the expense of quality. We are rebuilding volume, we are growing arrivals while maintaining strong visitor experience standards. And we do notice or we are doing the good work of ensuring that we see higher ratings for those categories at the bottom in terms of tourism infrastructure, roads, transportation, and our public parks. Next slide, please. We're also providing some lodging performance data here, and this is taken from our partners at STR Global or CoStar. Hotel performance supports our arrival data. Occupancy and room rates provided here are trending upward compared to last year, and you're seeing here the green is 2025 and the blue line is 2024. You're seeing from June to December kind of matching our arrivals double-digit growth in the latter half of the year, doing particularly better than the year before. This is an important indicator because lodging is a leading economic signal for us. When hotels strengthen, it cascades through employment, their vendor supply chains, and of course, tax revenue through the TAF. And with that, thank you.
Thank you, Christian, and thank you, Mr. Chair. We remain available for any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much, Madam President, and also Mr. Chair. Thank you very much for your presentation. Actually, before I turn over to questions of my colleagues, thank you, Senator Tello Taitigui, for joining us this afternoon. I think we got notice that Gita won't be present here this afternoon as well.
Unfortunately, they won't. They're in off island. I know that the vice is also, or the deputy is very sick at this point, but they have nothing new. I did speak to them on the phone this afternoon, and they really have nothing new to provide that was already shared the last meeting. So, okay.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. Let me go back to, again, oversight, controls, and risk management of your presentation here. Under financial control measures, expenditures over $24,999 require board approval to ensure fiduciary oversight and prevent unauthorized spending. Mr. Chu, according to, and let me go back to the IMEX. According to travel documentation submitted to the legislature, the IMEX America trip shows $26,641.74 in registration and booth materials booked as part of travel requests. According, again, to financial control measures, board's own policies, any expenditure over $24,999 requires board approval. Did the board approve this $26,641.74 for registration and booth expense?
I am not aware of such an expenditure, Chairman. Per my understanding, the legislature has approved all travel-related expenses to be approved by the general manager, the CEO, and president of GVB. So those type of expenditures do not have to come to the board for approval, as far as I'm aware. Okay. But if it was supposed to come to the board, no such expenditures came to the board for approval.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, because yeah, actually in other boards as well, board travel, I mean, the airport is here, Port Authority is not here, but all the board travel, actually travel requires board approval. In your estimation, Mr. Chair, is it appropriate for expenses of that magnitude to be bundled under travel in a way that bypasses board level approval then?
It's my understanding that when the board requires anything over $24,999 to be approved by the board, there should never be a step up. I don't think GVB management is stepping up anything, but nothing was brought to the board for approval. Okay. That's all I can answer. I'm not aware of any of the travel expenses that you mentioned about
thank you
in detail.
Very much. So whether it's airfare or lodging or booth fees, you know, it's still public money, and the threshold exists for a reason. And again, let me be clear with the intent. Okay, I'm not the Attorney General. We're not here to refer anyone for prosecution. I'm here to fix a system that may be broken, and that the board has asked to fix as well, because stakeholders and persons like yourself, the board members, are asking for accountability and not loopholes, right? So again, Mr. Chu, what can the board do procedurally or policy-wise to prevent this from happening again?
I think I made it clear at the first oversight hearing, Mr. Chairman, that the GVB board would like to be a governing board versus an advisory board, and that's still my position today. Thank you.
Okay. So again, it remains the same from previous, again, on the record, that you want to be the governing board as opposed to just an advisory board.
I have not changed my position from the first time we had our oversight hearing,
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Madam President, congratulations, of course, on the progress that you've made and your strategy to sustain the trajectory over the next 12 to 18 months. What are the top risks that could derail momentum in your estimation?
Mr. Chair, I'll get to your question, but I just wanted to quickly let the record reflect that our enabling legislation requires purchase orders and letters of authorization over $24,999. That requires board approval to ensure fiduciary oversight and prevent unauthorized spending. And we do that every single board meeting. So any insinuation that GVB management isn't following our enabling legislation and wants to skirt any financial controls or measures I just want to dispel any of that kind of conversation. And can you please repeat the question?
Yeah. What is your strategy to sustain the trajectory that we are seeing right now over the next 12 to 18 months?
So we'll continue
And what are the top risks that maybe can derail that momentum?
We continue to face challenges with air capacity. And so, there's some challenges. It's an uncertain future in terms of the Korean Air merger. And Mr. Chair, you're very well aware of this. The two major Korean carriers are Korean Air and Asiana. They are merging and then bringing along with them a number of low-cost carriers, Air Seoul, Air Busan, and Jin Air. And so this is a mammoth company with a huge operation, and so that they can really make or break, the Korean market for us. And so that's something that, we're working closely with our KMC committee on. We're working closely with the administration and your office to try to provide some stability there. But that's one risk that I can see. Other things like foreign exchange with the weak yen and weak won continue to be challenges for us. And then also in expanding into our into the new markets continue to be a challenge for us. But I really want to take a moment and thank our team. Our management team is here, but we also have many other members of the GVB family that are out there doing our good work and really dedicated to our mission. And that's the primary reason why we are here doing well today. It's not exactly where we want to be, but I really want to take a moment and thank them for their dedication to their work and their service to the people of Guam.
And I've had the opportunity, I think most of us had the opportunity to meet your Japan team and your Philippine team, and I don't know if we met your Korean team, but for context, reported load, of course, we talk about the Korean Air and Asiana merger, right? The load factors are 75 to 80% on Korea-Guam routes, suggests excess seat supply, right? Korean's air service maintenance obligations tied to the Korean Air Asiana merger, including a 90% seat maintenance mandate, have resulted in what many call ghost flights. Those obligations are scheduled to expire the end of this month, okay? And the KFCT has begun allowing service realignments, the so-called 2026 cliff. That context, how much of the recent Korean growth is merger-driven capacity versus organic demand from the GVB marketing perspective?
Thanks for that question, Mr. Chair. So in terms of the last part of the calendar year, the last quarter of the calendar year, a lot of that was merger-driven. And so instead of pouring any incentive money into supporting air capacity and providing that money to the airlines to incentivize air capacity, we instead, and thanks to the flexibility that we were given from the legislature, we were able to turn that into a marketing push, and really trying to focus on working with travel partners, travel agents, to fill those seats. We knew that the airlines were poised to, or needed to meet that 90% capacity of 2019 numbers. And so we, in turn, just worked with them to ensure that we had that load factor.
Can you, again, be clear to the committee here in regards to that merger and the incentives that we provided the airport and GVB, that it was required, it was a Korean government mandate, basically, and again, these ghost flights, right? That we weren't paying for those seats that were required by their government. But come, again, this 2026 cliff, then we will start the incentives then, right? So we want to just make sure and tell the public that because it was required by the Korean government, these flights that sometimes were flying empty was required by their Korean government, and that we weren't subsidizing those flights. Can just get on the record and can
Absolutely.
You,
Thank you, sir. On the record, we did not subsidize any of the ghost flights. We, as the president indicated, we pivoted and worked on programs that were family friendly, that filled planes in a different way. But we did not pay them to fly a plane during that time frame. Thank you, sir.
And again, Mr. Chair, I just want to emphasize that's the importance of giving management flexibility. And we appreciate that the legislature in its wisdom not only gave us the incentive or money for incentives, but also money for marketing dollars. And we were able to use that for cooperative agreements with a lot of our partners, and we're able to make these decisions timely and data-driven decisions. And so we want to continue to ask for that support from the legislature, and not to be bound by additional constraints, and to be able to see the conditions and respond immediately. That's how we're going to be able to get out of this situation and continue forward momentum.
I'm sorry,
just want to add to what Nadine and President Regine just said. We did not give any incentive money in December due to the merger issue and the flights were coming in. But what it did prove was that when you have flights, there will be bodies in the seats. At that time, those flights had to come regardless of what the load factors were. But having these additional flights, even though they came in at a lower load factor than the airlines wanted, it put bodies in the seats. Bodies in the seats meant tourism increasing in Guam. So it was a good thing. It proved that you need to have flights to keep coming to Guam in order to grow our tourism business. So there's something that we learned from that, which I think is very important to the GVB team to know that we got, and to everyone here, that the incentives are going to help us increase tourism. So we can't just say we don't need incentives. We got to keep on making sure the airlines keep flying here because we're competing with other destinations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What is GVB's strategy again against our other competing markets? For example, and we don't have the same tourists basically that come, but you have markets such as, say, Bangkok and Philippines and all that from other countries, and we have visa restrictions as well that we have to hurdle with, right? There's a big hurdle for us. And how do we entice, or what strategies do you have again to entice, to bring maybe not the same kind of tourists that go to these destinations, because we have our visa challenge, and then we have the Airlift challenge as well. And so how do we get in the ring with these folks that have more or less recovered, and we're sitting here wanting a piece of that action, and grabbing from the same kind of market as well.
Yeah, I think that market diversification is a really important priority for GVB and a place where we should focus. So not just focusing on diversifying our from our core markets, but also within our core markets, trying to go after different audiences that we haven't quite been able to attract in the past. And so I'll have Nadine kind of just add to that. But we have invested new resources into markets like Malaysia and Singapore for exactly the reason that you had mentioned, in terms of they're able to travel here visa-free, they're under the visa waiver. And they have less barriers to entry. And so I think another thing that we need to focus on is the fact that both Korea and Japan, our top two markets, have aging populations. And so this is a real concern for us. In the tourism industry, GVB is doing what we can to ensure that we don't place all of our eggs in one basket. And so that's part of our marketing strategy, but I'll let Nadine continue.
Are we going back to, I think Jerry can relate to this. Are we going back to when we first started tourism? Because we kind of, back then, we kind of catered or tailored to the silver market, did we not? That had, a lot more money and all that. So are we reverting back to that, or is that still a viable option for us to go back to that as well?
So, go ahead.
Yeah, what President Regine was alluding to basically is manipulation of the demographics, okay? Because to her point, the demographics are getting old in Japan and Korea. So I know that a number of years ago, and Nadine can remember this, we were able actually to shift the percent of high-income people, increase it by 20 to 30%, and conversely reduce the low-income people from about 30% to like 10% or something like that. So there's a way to do that. It's called marketing message, and it's very tactically applied to market segments in Japan and Korea. There's still an opportunity to do that moving forward. It just takes a lot of retooling in our marketing message and our segmentation.
But let me ask you this, because if it's a marketing message, but we also, because you're saying higher income, right? Higher income. But okay, we're going to lose duty free. Yeah. I don't know where Lotte is at this point. So what does higher income require? I mean, do they just want the same type of experience?
Yeah, no. Part of it is a general marketing message, right? Part of it is very specific programs that are tailor-made for them, whether it's shopping or whatever it is that they're looking for. And so the way to do that basically is to focus in on some of the things that are of more appeal to that demographic group. So Nadine, you want to add more to that?
Sure. So the Japan, if I could just take a step back. So the Japan population showed signs of its aging before Korea did. And so for the Japan market, we've maintained that silver market status. In Korea, we're actually just expanding into it. Are they a viable market? Yes, they absolutely are. We're talking people 55 and older. Matter of fact, we brought out a group called the New Gray. Very active seniors, into fashion, into food. They want unique experiences, and that's what Guam has to offer for them. So they're not necessarily looking for high-end luxury shopping. They're looking for more things that touch their hearts.
So that's where the culture comes in then?
Absolutely.
Yeah, more experiential kind of activities.
Are we working then closely with the companies out here in promoting more of the culture? And that experience?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because actually I was, Mr. Mark Bodega, I ran into him last week and he was talking that a new attraction is gonna open up. A night hiking or something of that nature, where
Yes.
they're gonna have tatamonas and all that.
An illuminated night walk, but I don't want
that's
to,
right, yeah.
steal his thunder.
No, I
But the
don't wanna
other
do that,
thing,
but
the other thing I wanted to mention is just that building and maintaining relationships is also the key to this issue. I think that's, part of our long-term strategic goals is to make sure that we are in the rooms where these discussions are happening. The people of Guam's natural inclination, just our hospitality, our Hafaday spirit is another key to this as well. And we have to continue to be our authentic selves to thrive. That's what people want to see. They want to be a part of, pockets of communities here on Guam. And so that's one of the reasons why we are promoting the Guam Coco Road Race. We all know that the running community here on Guam thriving. Every single weekend, there's a 2K, a 5K, at sunrise, at sunset, there's a ton of that. And visitors want to come here and be a part of that and run right alongside the ocean. That's not something that they can do in their home countries many times. And plus, it's freezing cold out there where they are. So we want to continue to welcome them here, have them be a part of many of our community events. We have a number of festivals and fiestas, Mes Chamorros on the way, and then we have our Wellness Month shortly after that. So again, Mr. Chair, inviting them to be a part of the Guam Coco Road Race, a part of Tour of Guam, the cycling race that happens at the end of April. All of these things, all of these signature events are opportunities for them to have an experience with local cyclists, local runners, to get that experience. And also we have our military community that participates in these events. And to really show, every single Sunday at the Tuman Night Market, you see that on display. I was just there last Sunday. They were able to promote a lot of their vendors, are giving some of their proceeds back to our community, like organizations like Special Olympics. And so it's just that opportunity for them to experience what life on Guam is really like. And that's really what they're looking for. They're looking for a break from their everyday lives, an opportunity to come celebrate Lunar New Year here on Guam and to see what we're all about.
Yeah, with that being said too, actually, I'll turn it over to my colleagues as well here. I don't want to bogart the questions here, but actually with that being said, we also have to get our act together. In all of us, I'm going to say we got to clean up. We got to clean up our island. One of the things, again, we're going to be introducing, of course, our bill for parks, public-private partnership parks and open spaces, because they want to experience again the culture, but and this is, we're working closely with the airport as well with this, because we've got to stop people from walking. One of the first things they're going to see is them, people lugging their bags, no sidewalks and all that, right? So we really got to clean up our act. So we have to again make sure we have clean bathrooms, that trash is disposed of properly. We take care of our homeless community and things of that nature, and our derelict buildings are rectified. Because they want to have a nice experience, a clean experience, right? Because they say, hey man, I can go to my dirty neighborhood too, and all that, right? And our competition, they have beaches as well, right? But we have to really clean it up. So we have to get aggressive with that, and I hope that you will support our public-private partnership bill that we will put out for parks and open spaces, and hopefully that would get us closer to, because we leave it just up to government. It's to be desired. So anyway, Senator Duenas.
Mr. Chair, and thank you, President Lee, as well as Chairman Chu, for being here, and the entire staff of management staff of GVB. I wanted to address first and foremost your opening statement, Senator. A couple of things that I know for me that I don't share is that I haven't heard anybody in this body discuss that we benchmarked 2019. As a matter of fact, what I've heard even Chairman Chu speak to mostly is the recovery rate and compare other markets, and that was what the drive was that I've consistently heard, is to catch up to other areas that appeared to, at least prior to where we're going now, have a faster rate of recovery. In fact, I remember being in one meeting where Chairman Chu mentioned that we keep talking about this competition with, other areas in Japan, wherein he believes, especially where the Marines are, he believes that if we're losing tourism inside of Japan, to Okinawa, it shouldn't be, because Guam has so much more to offer. So I just want to share that I think to kind of reset, at least for me, is I don't think anybody's asking to return to 2019. I think a lot of people know that that's a few years out. We want to be there, but the fact is that it's the recovery rate that I've heard most expressed in terms of the concern being lower, and so that was the drive that I've heard mostly overall. The other thing is, with the $10 million and that debate, and I thank you and your team for being here. You saw on display how difficult that was, and that was a heavy lift in terms of the very competitive things in the fiscal cycle for 2026. And so a lot of what we've been asking for is, and we see the fruits of that now, and we wanted that out there, was because, several of us really got hit pretty hard for that in terms of why are you even doing this, when, as the chairman said, we've got so many issues with the destination. We came down and sat there, those of us who took the time based on your invitation, to listen to the board and to be educated on why it was so important and why the seat capacity was so important. We had to articulate those arguments on the floor in order to be able to get that very difficult amendment passed. And now we see the fruits of that. So I just hope that there's an understanding that a lot of what's going on here is to continue the messaging. The chairman just mentioned again, we're going to need to continue to provide incentives and opportunities. So that's a discussion, that's going to be ongoing and of course in this year. But that's where I sit, I think, and that's where I see, by your presentation today, the progress going forward. I wanted to go to the presentation for a couple of questions on slides. One thing that I have heard in the past, and I hope it's changed when we go to number 12 on the KPIs. This was a point of contention for several businesses that have approached me even several years ago, and even as recent as 6 months ago, that this is not a regular, it used to be a regular update, and these KPIs, particularly with markets and trends, were something that was lacking, and it was hard on them for their planning purposes going out. And so I wanted to get an update on that, whether or not this is something that has returned to being shared regularly with all of our tourism partners, particularly those who are having their own internal meetings on trends, watching trends and investment.
Thank you, Senator Dueñas. So we're actually working on providing or reestablishing these dashboards for our members and providing a real time on a monthly basis, all of these reports, these KPIs to them. So we're working on that and should roll that out in the next few months.
But a lot of the arrivals data and some of our exit survey information are also available at guamvisitorsbureau.org. .com, I'm sorry, guamvisitorsbureau.com. We have multiple sites. And so that can be found on the research tab.
Sure, yeah, I think it was, and I guess we could just pull it up, but even if we went back a couple of years, right, and pulled up a typical more in detail and in depth, I think even I'm sure the chairman goes through and was busy reading these things before too.
Unfortunately, a lot of the research tools were really rolled back in terms of when we're down for COVID. There weren't that many visitors to continue the a lot of these research tools and some of the surveys that we were conducting. So we're in the process of bringing a lot of those back online. And we recently hired our director of tourism research, and his team is continuing those efforts. So in addition to the information that we receive from the electronic declaration form and our exit surveys at the airport, there are a number of other tools that we're excited to be able to share with the community.
Yeah, I think our partners are going to be quite happy with that, to get back to what they viewed as, kind of the norm in the past as they continue to make their recovery plan going out. So I just wanted to return to it. I know it's been a point of contention on this IMAX, but I want to go to this slide and just ask directly once again. So I think it was as discussed that about $50,000 was spent on this, and it was mentioned that this is not a one-time thing. It's been traditionally something that GVB has been going to. But when I look at the example that you put out, Madam President, essentially the ROI that I see directly from this slide is that the world travel, TCS World Travel has included Guam in their 2024 and 2025 itinerary, called for cultural encounters with that 23-day tour, 9 destinations, 52 high-end guests, cost per package $250,000 per person. Is this the key ROI that we would focus on in terms of this? What outside of this can we discuss?
Thank you so much, Senator, for the opportunity. So this is just one marketing example. We had about 50 slides, and we were really trying to pare it down and not put you folks to sleep. But TCS World Travel is just one group that we were able to attract because we were present at IMEX. And I say it was 2 of our staff members that were there for the full week, and we paid booth fees and registration to the tune of $30,000. So GVB spent $30,000 to participate in this group, and we were able to bring forward groups or itineraries from companies like Abercrombie and Kent. TCS World Travel was another one. I think the Abercrombie and Kent was a similar ultra luxury package, and I think that's priced at about $175,000 a person to participate in that. So those are 2 of the ultra luxury itineraries that Guam was included on. In addition to that, we also met with a bunch of folks who organize MICE tours. And so we were able to get military groups and other large groups of like 30 packs that would come to Guam and stay for over a month. So the ROI on that is tremendous. And if you're going to ask me if I want to spend $30,000 again next year and the year after that, you bet I will. Because if this is the kind of return that we're getting, and also the word of mouth, in addition to tie-ups that we're able to make with influencers and media folks that we meet out there. We also are doing work with online travel agencies where they're featuring photos of Guam on their landing page. Those types of things have real media value and are an incredible return on our investment. So again, I will be happy to discuss this at length, and Nadine and her team can share additional examples with you. But if this is the example that you guys want to use, I'm very, very happy to have that conversation.
It's not the example I want to use. I want to use something that I want to see more quantifiable. I heard a lot of the things, the pictures, that this slide in particularly showing that trip, which is 52 individuals that include Guam as one of the destinations with the overall. I mean, the thing is quantifiable that I see from you and GVB and the reports is watching that we're now seeing the tourist attraction fund start to levelize and actually generate revenue now. That's quantifiable, I think, to me and to probably most of our colleagues. In terms of arrivals, quantifiable for arrivals, I don't know that we can delineate unless you have, some research that shows when we look at our U.S. destination arrivals, whether they're military, family of military, others, our families coming and going because our families come back home, I don't know, and so what I'd like to see is something just a little bit deeper. That seems to be
Absolutely.
pretty surface.
No,
surface,
absolutely.
yeah.
And also, I just want to clarify on the electronic declaration form. One of the first questions that they ask is if you're a returning resident, if you're military, and it's precisely for what you mentioned, Senator, so we can separate those folks out and they're not counted in our tourist arrivals data. So these numbers aren't padded. They go through, the team goes through them, and there are a number of different responses on the electronic declaration form that they are able to analyze and go through, but I'll have Christian kind of give additional details on that.
Yeah.
Yes, Senator, we can provide that particular detailed data that you're looking for. We can look at it from the military perspective or from a U.S. Market perspective as well, and compare it maybe month over month or year over year as well.
Sure, I mean, because, it's no secret, right? The hugest U.S. market is Hawaii. I mean, if we're competing with Hawaii 7 hours later, sorry, it's not going to be in that area. But if I'm not saying there's not a return here, it just jumps off the page. And for my next question, yeah.
I just wanted to reiterate that IMEX America was held in Las Vegas, but the target is not necessarily North American travelers. This is a global event. There are over 70 countries and 6,000 buyers, 6,000 international buyers that are attending this event. So it's not just North America, even though North America is our third largest source market. We're also meeting people from Korea, from Japan, from Asia. And so it's just, I think maybe the misconception or the misunderstanding here is that it was held in North America or held in Las Vegas, and people think that we're out there gambling or the government money. I have no idea. But it's a very targeted 1 week conference or gathering. It's a B2B meeting, so business to business meetings that are held. And it's a great opportunity for Guam to be there in the room and making these concrete returns on that investment. Thank you, Senator.
Yeah, I don't cast aspersions like that. I don't try to get into that. Are you out there gambling, GVB money or the like? But maybe I'm just going to ask the chairman just to put this to bed for me, at least, other than detailed information. If you were reviewing the travel and you're familiar with IMAX, correct? Would this be something that you would also want, or is there already some ROI that you would see and that you would command and you could extrapolate from the data saying, yeah, I see this, and yeah, it's international, it's not just this, it's our markets that we're already working with here. It's bigger than, would this be something that you would approve of in a meeting?
Again, I have to reiterate that the board has no authority over the travel. So this is something that I have no information on as in terms of the thing. So I can't comment on that right now.
Would you have the same questions I have when you get that authority?
I think everybody would have the same questions you have, but I think President Regine has already responded saying that this is not a show that's limited to USA, but it's a worldwide show. I've been told that before too. So if it's truly a worldwide show with all these people from all over the world visiting, and then the cost is $30,000, and if that was brought to the board for approval, I would probably approve it, yes.
And
Sorry,
yeah.
Senator, I just wanted to correct. I'm not sure if the chairman was present at this meeting, but we did discuss IMEX and our plans in the October 23rd meeting, and it's in our minutes. And so I do want to just say that we had this discussion with the board, and we always bring these things up to the board prior to our travel, and then information about what was done post-travel.
Jerry, were you in that meeting? So I guess the chairman and the vice president were not there. Okay.
Oh, sorry, no.
Okay.
And then, Senator, one other thing that I just want to reiterate is I've been thinking a lot about this, and I just want to emphasize that the day that you plant the seed is not the day that you harvest the fruit. And so we planted the seed every time that we go to IMEX, every time we go to ITB in Singapore, or all of these different trips and trade shows, and then we see the return on that investment later. So a good example of that is ITF. We attended in November, and that was in Taipei. There was over 140,000 people that were there in the venue, and Guam had a booth. We coordinated with United Airlines and Starlux, and so that's when you're able to see the return on investment this week with over 8 charters fully booked. There's 850 people here on island celebrating Chinese New Year, but they purchased those packages at ITF in Taipei, and that was in November.
Madam President, I don't want to do it back and forth, but I do think that Taiwan's always been on our radar. I think Taiwan's a no-brainer for us. I mean, I think anybody would put pen to paper on that. I personally have been there several times, and I understand it. In fact, we got medical folks coming in on Thursday to celebrate 10th anniversary of China Medical Hospital being here. So we got sister cities there. We got it going on in Taiwan, no question about it. And so I'm there. I understand exactly where that is and where that's going. I don't want to beat it up. What I want to do is I want to say that I think that there is a need for deeper, data on this issue when people think of, the U.S. and they think of that venue in terms of measuring the return. That's all. That's where I am. Chairman, you have something to say?
I totally agree. I think there has to be a little bit more detail. Currently, the board approves a lot of the budget on a huge line item basis, like marketing, $5 million for Japan, Korea, $4 million for Japan, North America travel for marketing, but the board does not really go into detail specifics. So IMAX might be in the budget, right? But we approve it as one whole line item. So we don't go into, the management doesn't go into detail with the board on every single thing, nor should they. Okay, but when you're asking, that's why, again, there's a difference between being an advisory board, being a governing board. This is something that if I feel like if we want to have a little bit more oversight, we need to be a governing board. Now, management of GVB might feel otherwise, but that remains to be seen. And the only other issue that we came up here today was, I think the issue that came up was the chairman and Senator Lujan put in an amendment that the travel budget should be approved by the board. And I totally don't disagree with that, because right now, I think even former Senator Joanne Brown agreed with Senator Lujan that she'd never been on a board where the travel of the board members are approved by the general manager or the president and not by the board itself. So this is just something that I find very strange and needs to be addressed. Thank you.
So I'm just going to kind of round it out with this, and Ina, welcome aboard. I know you're no stranger in terms of keeping an eye on things that happen, on our island, and having, of course, come from PBS and just the general view from even a news and an understanding Guam perspective with the broad programming. So I think this is where we've received most of the pushback whenever there's any big ticket item and the like, is once again this constant perception. And I had this in pre-budget meetings now under performance-based budgeting with DPW and DPR respectively, that one thing we're going to have to do is take another look at mission creep and things that have happened between agencies. And sometimes there's finger pointing when we say, okay, we're going to give GVB this amount of money to do a certain amount of beautification or for bathrooms or whatever else, and it starts to cross over in DPR and the like. So in destination management overall, in your just short time there, as you've looked at things, how do you view in terms of the interagency relationship? Because that's what we're going to keep asking for when it comes to destination management and some of the things that we're trying to fast track in terms of beautification and other things to do what we get getting criticized for. That's what we got hit for the most of the $10 million was, how come you're not spending that in improvement of facilities and upgrades and different things in the community? And so that's where we're at. What has been your viewpoint since you've come on board?
Thank you for that question, Senator. I have been at GVB for now 12 days. And so in my short time there, we have already had to partner and assist sister agencies in certain projects. And while we do realize the importance of safety, of beautification, of a visitor's experience, right? At GVB, we just don't have the purview to manage these agencies, and yet, or the authorization, right? Authority. So while it isn't our purview, we step in because what's most important is that the visitor has a great experience, that they don't see trash on the streets, that, there's not broken glass on the beaches. We want to make sure that marketing spends a lot of money to bring these people here, and they sell this beautiful island, and we need to make sure that when they arrive here that we're living up to that sell. And so, a lot of times we take it upon ourselves and spend our budget to make sure that these things happen. I would love to, live in an island where Parks and Recs has the funding that they need to have lifeguards on the beach, but they don't. So as a result, we have to train and place lifeguards at Ipoh and Matapeng. And same thing with sometimes the maintenance. Just yesterday, we removed two, was that yesterday? Friday, we moved 2 abandoned vehicles from Ipoh that had been in the parking lot for months. And, thanks to the help of Ray Gibson and Parks and Rec and also DPR, they assisted us in doing that, but we took it upon ourselves to do it. It's unfortunate, but as the Guam Visitors Bureau, we are responsible for making sure that, we do what we can to live up to the promises that we're selling to our tourists and visitors.
That's a great answer for a 12-day employee. and the reason why I say that is really because I'm sure when you applied for the position, when you thought about it, in that dual role and responsibility, that's a huge thing. And it's interesting. I don't want to belabor this point because it'll come up in their budget hearing. But I like that you brought up lifeguards, because when we had our performance-based budgeting meeting with them today, they talked about how the same issue of recruitment and retention is going on all over the place, because $20 an hour to work on base as a lifeguard, right? The problem is that their division has the resources, so they got to get in there and say they're not going to hire 9 because they've never been able to hire 9. But with the budget that they have, they could have 4 at the proper level. These are the things that government's got to start doing. This is why we started this performance-based budgeting, is you got tools internally to control that right now. And that's what I want to keep impressing on, the fact that, sometimes it doesn't matter how much money you have, it's what you do with what you got. And so that's why we're here, and that's why we're asking these questions, is because what we're finding is across the government and across operations, we can fix it, but we have to fix it internally by making sure that they have the tools to do what they need to do to get the recruitment and retention for the 4 lifeguards that we know they could hire if they were competitive, and then move out from there and get the additional budget in the coming year to be able to regrow that, right? But I'm seeing a lack of innovation. I'm seeing a lack of efficiency to make those things move across the board to get it to happen. That's where we want to partner. That, to me, is what the Anafamaulik is. We can pat each other on the back and we can greet each other with a smile, but the truth is where the rubber hits the road is, what are we doing and how are we getting it done? So that's where I want to continue this partnership going forward, working with the board, working with GVB, working with all the other agencies. And so I encourage you, Anna, to continue in that direction, because that's what's going to be discussed primarily during the budget season, is where do we have mission creep? Where do we have situations where agencies that are all directly involved in providing these services and providing an experience for Guam are all at the same table, and not just because it became a media thing that a couple of cars got taken away. It's got to be automatic. It's got to turn around faster than that. And so that's where we're at. And when we come back and we start talking about, once again, you know, you need money for marketing, we're going to have to look across the government too and say, that's great, but we also need to make sure we're putting the heavy pressure on the product. And I think that's where most of us are at. That's not a beat somebody up thing. That is, let's get this together, Guam, you know, because of the fact that this is what we got to do together. So with that, Mr. Chair, that's where I'm at with this. I mean, I think 90% of the presentation speaks for itself. What we have to dig down on is the issues where the problems are. And that's what I'm trying to accomplish. I think that's what we're going to definitely get done this year, Mr. Chairman, especially when you don't have really a budget oversight, but you're going to see where the other agencies are going to be tasked to interact with you more strongly. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Vice. And thank you for that as well, Nina. Thank you as well for that, because, you know, again, you know, when we were being assigned oversights committees, they were by design, basically, so that we have collaboration. And, you know, we're seeing, of course, that, I mean, we talk about a Guam experience, a one Guam experience, but obviously there, you know, agencies, maybe they used to in the past and how they work, that they operate in silos, and there's lack of cooperation or communication. And so we know that we've got to collaborate to be a one Guam experience. As you said, you worked the other day to remove abandoned vehicle. I mean, that's not your role, but you took it on because it's an experience. And who else is front and center for that experience? And your office is right there, so they call you, so you have to react to it. And so that's what I'm saying, and I'm glad that most of the chairs of the committees are here, because we have to collaborate. We have to work with each other. It's got to be, again, we can't just talk about a Guam experience, a one Guam experience, when we have different agencies operating in silos. It's got to be cooperative effort for us to be able to get through this hurdle and to solve the problems, because it's not unsolvable. We just need to get it done. One question before I go to Senator Gumataltal. You know, our office received correspondence that the western crosswalk signal was not working, and the warning signs were posted in English, Japanese, Korean, and Chinese since December of 2027. This is unacceptable. Are you aware of this? And what coordination has occurred with DPW or GPD or the hotel or others to be able to rectify this? Because that's a dangerous intersection. I mean, especially turning up the hill there. And you see, I mean, I've experienced it myself where I'm turning, you know, and tourists are just dashing out because they probably are tired of waiting for a crosswalk. But what's happening with that?
It's my understanding, Senator, that they're waiting on a part. And then this is also another issue for that crosswalk right in front of the Dusit place. Mm-hmm. And in our presentation, I can't recall which slide, but it's in the destination management slides. Let me just,
you know, I saw the other day the Dusit place that they had one of your guys in your yellow shirts.
Yes, the VSOs are walking people across the street there. Yeah. So we've been providing that pedestrian assistance since January 30th for in front of the Dusit place, mm-hmm. But we also have been providing assistance there. We had it wasn't working, and then it was, and we had some issues, especially during the night market nights. Mm-hmm. But this was prior to INA coming on board, and so these are a number of the issues that we're working with both DPW and our GVB members on, just to make sure that we're mm-hmm. providing that pedestrian safety.
Okay. Yeah, because, you know, again, going up that hill, I mean, that's a dangerous turn.
Very dangerous,
and you know, you're looking all over the place, and then especially now, I think one lane is being worked on or something.
One lane is being worked on, and then, you know, especially when it's raining, again, very dangerous and slick.
Yeah. And at night, and especially at night, when it's darker, you know, and all that. Anyway, thank you. Senator Gumataltal.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, GVB, for being with us this afternoon. Let me start with the question on the destination development and visitor experience. In your FY 2026 budget request, it identified a number of weaknesses including those which I'm gathering were obtained through surveys from our guests from Korea and Japan. The weaknesses include, but are not limited to, public transportation and tourist mobility challenges, cleanliness within Guam's tourist district, and environmental concerns, including the overall issue of controlled development and specific problems such as trash and graffiti that spoil Guam's natural beauty, and the lack of convention center facilities that can serve large volumes, this is 1,000 or more packs, from the incentive meetings travel market to Guam. As a follow-up to a question that I raised last month regarding abandoned or underutilized hotels, what data does GVB have to confirm the actual needs of an incentive meetings travel market? And what discussions, if any, have been put forward on the possibility of repurposing some of these structures for convention centers and or similar types of facilities?
I'm sorry, Senator, could you repeat the question? That was like 5 questions in one, so if we could just break it down.
It's a bunch of comments on your budget, but it was going specifically to this idea of incentives, meetings, for a travel market.
Right.
So again, we talked about data. You have data. What is the data saying about the need for an incentive or incentive meetings travel market, and what discussions, if any, have been put forward on the possibility of repurposing these facilities in our tourism district for convention centers or other similar facilities?
So as it stands, Senator, thank you so much for that question. As it stands, this is a huge opportunity for us to attract additional groups through MICE, right? And our existing convention center is really at the Dusit, and then we have other ballrooms throughout the island, but they can only fit about 400 or 500 guests max packs. So that's a real big limit to what we can do. I know there were discussions previously about having a new convention center built at some point, maybe with hot bond funds, but that's not really within our immediate purview. And I know that Nadine has some other information and data that we might be able to share on this issue.
I wanted to ask about the data. What does the data say about this particular market?
So I'm sorry, I don't have it with me, but I want to say prior to the pandemic, incentive travel for the Japan market made up about 30 to 40% of the arrivals. And the advantage of having incentive travel come is the company pays for their trip, pays for their hotel, airline, everything.
How about now?
Hang on. And then they have discretionary income because now they're spending their own money to go shopping and whatnot. So we're trying to rebuild that market to something that works not only for Japan market, but also Korea. It's slowly coming back. What you're seeing out of Japan is reluctance for companies to go overseas. A big industry area is actually Nagoya. That's where Toyota's operating out of. And there's a real reluctance from these major companies to travel abroad. But we have been successful with some of the banking and some of the insurance companies coming to the island.
Okay, so because we're in an oversight hearing, you guys are sworn, so the numbers, there is no significant number saying that this is an emerging market moving forward. From the data that you've seen today, I get what you're saying about pre-pandemic. I'm talking about like today.
Yep. We could send you numbers later. I don't have the numbers on me now.
But I definitely think it's an opportunity for us. And there have been some interesting developments in the last few weeks, primarily with regard to Japan, right? So the Japanese government has actually seen this reluctance of, as Nadine was saying, Japanese citizens to travel. So they actually slashed the cost of passports in half. And then we're seeing many of our travel agency partners step up and say, hey, we will pay an additional, any additional fees on that. So it makes it so that the Japanese traveler can now try to get a passport for free, essentially. And so really trying to push that international travel, and that's a real sweet spot for Guam.
Yeah,
So
and I mean, when we read the reports out of Japan, they're staying in country. They're not wanting to leave, and that's why I'm asking if there is any other way. I
I think they're wanting to leave, but
yeah,
they just, the
but
passport
they're giving
is...
incentives to go to Okinawa that are way better than coming
That's right.
here. And that's what I'm getting at. But I'm just trying to key on the visitor data that you guys are doing all the surveys. That's why I'm asking. I mean, we just haven't seen it, and that's why I'm asking specifically about this one target. Jerry, you have something to say?
Yeah, I was just going to add to the discussion here a couple of things to remember. We have had a healthy dose of incentive tours coming to Guam in the past, as many as 25 to 30% of our market. It's a different kind of market. It behaves differently from the leisure travel market, number one. Number two, the opportunity for convention center, we really need to be careful because our absorptive capacity on transportation, hotel, bookings, and so forth is quite limited. And so we need to make sure that the convention business we get here is of a size that can be sustained over several months, for example.
Right, and Jerry, why I'm asking that, we just had the airport here, and they're saying, we want to bring more capacity. And so you're like giving this message that is the opposite. They just said they're like want to bring in airlines from all over all our markets, and what you just testified on is the complete opposite. Am I missing something?
No, that's not necessarily inconsistent. I'm just laying to you that from an airport perspective, of course, the more the better, right? But from our absorptive capacity, the more the better doesn't necessarily mean size. It means consistency and manageable volumes.
Sure. Okay. No, I get that. Let me go back to probably one that's probably closer to my heart, and I'll just say this to you, to former Senator. I think I visited your office more than I visited other parts of my oversight. So thank you very much for hosting me on multiple occasions. And I do want to talk specifically about this work we're doing with the Tourism Committee Chair, with our Finance Committee Chair, members of the Public Safety Committee. And it was a bill that we introduced to prioritize appropriations for the establishment of a GFD Tumon Rescue Base. And so for the benefit of the members of our community that are following the discussion, can you describe the efforts led by GVB and the Guam Fire Department over the last 8 years to develop a Tumon Rescue Base and the importance of having such a presence in our tourism district? And by the way, I think there was some help coming from GVB.
Yes, absolutely. So we have kind of earmarked some of our budget in the destination management portion. And in terms of the Tumon Rescue Base, we have been meeting over the last few months, but we again went back to the data. And we saw a number of years ago where we had units from Guam Fire Department, specifically the rescue unit, stationed in Tumon during Golden Week. And as many of you know, Guam has very sadly lost about one life every single month due to drownings, and a lot of that, takes place in our main tourism district. And so we see that this is a huge, we want to highlight that critical need for enhanced safety and rapid response capability. So when we had the GFD rescue unit stationed in Tumon for Golden Week, they were able to respond within a matter of minutes, as opposed to their existing response time. They're coming from Estumbo or from Tamuning. It takes them at least 12 at the very best to maybe 25 minutes, depending on traffic. And if you're out there in distress, a distressed swimmer, to ask them to hang on for dear life for 25 minutes, that's a very tall order, especially if they're a visitor unfamiliar with our tide, unfamiliar with the currents, unfamiliar with the triggerfish that are pervasive in that area. And so, again, we just really wanted to consider an opportunity for us to provide additional visitor safety, but safety for all of our residents, everybody that that uses our local beaches, but specifically right in the heart of Tumon. So the impact in terms of for GVB was the perception of safety for tourism, and then also visitor feedback regarding emergency services. So if we were to, and we're well on our way to establish a Tumon rescue base, that would allow medics, paramedics from GFD to be responsive to our most populated area, especially where many visitors are in hotels. And so I think it's a huge win for our community if we're able to do it. And I thank you for your leadership on this issue. GVB will definitely be there every step along the way because we believe that this potential project has a lot of benefits.
And Mr. Chair, why I bring that up, if you heard the number, if we're looking at 1 drowning a month, and I've only been in this job for 14 months. I can only imagine what the 7 previous years and the kind of tragedy that could have been avoided if we would have just prioritized putting some kind of rescue base in and around our major tourism district. I just have a couple more questions, Mr. Chair. I just want to focus, if I can, on the finance side of the House for just a bit. According to your fiscal year 2026 organizational chart, the organization, or GVB, employs at least 15 maintenance workers who are all recruited as limited term appointments. These same maintenance-related positions are included among the at least 28 LTA positions who make up GVB's total staffing level of 63 employees, as recognized in your organization's first quarter staffing pattern for FY 2026. What information can you share regarding the decision-making process that led to the recruitment of 28, or nearly half, of GVB's current staffing level under this LTA arrangement? Mr. Chair, hopefully you can offer some insight as well. And is this really sustainable, considering the work you're trying to do in other areas of the operations?
Again, thank you for the question, Senator. On the LTA issues, those date back to pre-current CEO days, and a lot of it had to do with bringing some of the outsourced work back in-house. Whether or not GVB needs 63 employees right now is not something that we have been discussed with management yet, but I'm sure under the current leadership, she will be taking a hard look at whether or not all 63 are needed. And whatever else is, we'll also be discussing the possibility of, is it better to have it in-house, or is it better to have it outsourced? So we'll be taking a look at that again in the upcoming board meetings to decide with management. And if the case is it's better to be outsourced, then some of the LTAs will no longer be needed, and then the level of staffing will go down. If it's better to be kept in-house, then the LTAs will continue to stay in place and do the work. It's my understanding sometime that the LTAs are available to work for GVB at all times because they're working 8 to 5, versus when you do an outsource, they schedule your work at a certain day of the week and only show up at a certain day of the week. So there's advantages and disadvantages that the GVB management is still reviewing, and they should be making their presentation to the board down the road.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator Gumatautau. Just on that point, I agree with what the chairman had said, but we also have recently employed, just in the past few months, a personal services administrator. And so that person is going through our staffing pattern, really identifying and doing some critical analysis on a number of these positions, and making sure that if this is in line for a classified position, that we're considering that. And these are the discussions that management is having right now, just to make sure that we're still able to move forward with our mission and our mandate, in just really trying to think about the most efficient and cost-effective way to do that.
Thank you so much. Mr. Chair, I want to have one more question. It's about slide 15, and it's about the marketplace, right? So on the right side, you mentioned the Guam CNMI visa waiver. Obviously, we know, from experience, that is an 18-year-old federal law that has allowed visa-free travel into the U.S. territory. And we know that when we think about if you listen to the airport's presentation, and they're looking at expansion of the Malaysia, Singapore types of, getting these folks involved in perhaps coming to Guam if it's an incentive. I'm a little taken aback when I see the Philippines as a developing market. I think I agree with the chair about even where Taiwan sits. But there's been a lot of talk about perhaps a movement on Hong Kong, and in a very bad way, meaning to remove completely from the Guam CNMI visa waiver. If they were to be removed, I asked this question to GVB, and replaced with the Philippines, what kind of climate will we see for our tourism industry if it is a permanent replacement to the Guam CNMI visa waiver program?
So, thank you, Senator. So our arrivals from Hong Kong are actually, they're rather low. Our arrivals from the Philippines are so much higher. If the visa requirement is removed from the Philippines, we anticipate an explosion of arrivals.
Right. I mean, if you look at their total outbound based on the Philippine information, Guam is like really, really close to their outbound to the United States. It's like almost by 5,000 off. Just think about the possibilities. I mean, obviously with incentives coming out of Cebu, thanks to our friends at the airport and yourselves, that is going to be, that's money well spent. And I think this body, when we roll the dice with you on the airline incentives, this is the kind of policy that we're hoping that, I know the Lieutenant Governor here is also doing the same thing and considering this, and the Governor of Guam, but just the idea of a replacement is, I think, Mr. Chair, is going to yield. And of course, the chair's work on this is significant too. And I can't, and your former predecessor,
yes,
he always gets mad when I don't say, oh, by the way, I had something to do with this.
Yes.
But it goes back farther than that.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that for the record, Mr. Chair, that I'm hoping that we'll get some good news soon and give you guys that pat. Because this is a pretty good presentation today. I expect as we get closer to the budget that even that news could help really turn around our current situation with our tourism industry.
Absolutely, Senator. And in this time of Lent, we continue to pray that this is, what our future holds for us. As it currently stands, we have 1.5 million visa holders from the Philippines. And as you mentioned, Guam is the closest U.S. destination. So many times they come here right as their visa is about to expire to demonstrate just the opportunity to travel and then be able to get their visas renewed. And so again, we're here for it. We're here for that action. There have been conversations I know that the acting governor has had with folks at Department of Interior as well as DHS, really trying to push that up the flagpole. I know the chairman would be a very happy camper because we know that a lot of these Filipinos love to shop, love to spend on our island. It would be a tremendous boon to our economy. And these are our brothers and sisters, our kababayans from all over the Philippines. So
and
thank
Mr.
you
Chair, I think I've heard the term up the flagpole with this issue over the last 3 weeks a lot more, which is a positive that this could yield some good things for Guam. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the time, and thank you, GVB.
Senator Gumazauto. Senator Borja, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, GVB, for coming down today. When I look at the information, or at least the slides that were presented, of course, the performance or the KPIs that were presented look good. I guess what I'm more interested in as we look at projections is what does good KPIs or metrics in regards to future performance look like, so that we know when we're on or off mark in regards to arrivals, or just return on investment in regards to what GVB does.
Thank you very much, Senator, and thank you for the question. We've really been looking at the work that we do in terms of kind of a bureau-wide scorecard. And so one of the things that we're looking at is, we have our overall visitor satisfaction survey that I think Christian went through, and we are receiving marks at about an 8 out of 10, or right between that 8 and 9 out of 10 visitor satisfaction survey. So we want to continue to maintain that. If we can increase it, even better. Again, we're always focused, our eyes on the prize for 1 million visitors by the end of fiscal year 2026. Lots of things happening, and we're retooling and adjusting as we go, but that still remains our kind of North Star. We're shooting for that. We also want to continue to increase jobs due to tourism by the end of fiscal year 2026. And then just, kind of a personal and a management team expectation is we really want to increase local participation in the industry. We want our local businesses to feel the success of these arrivals and to really feel the impact in their profits, in the way that we continue to do business on our island. And then we also want to increase visitor yield. And so that's the spend per visitor per market. So lots of different metrics that we're tracking. Christian can add to that. But we're definitely keeping a close eye on a number of these issues. And it's not just tied to arrivals. We're thinking about the performance of our work and how it impacts the industry and the community as a whole.
But I think what I'm really asking for is regards to targets, right? So we know how we did in the last 90 days. We saw numbers for October or December, up to December 2025. We have visitor arrivals for January 2026. Now, for the next 90 days, or at least our projections, our targets for the year, what are those numbers? I mean, again, what does good look like? Where does GVB, what do you guys look at, or what should we expect to see in the next 90 to 120 days in regards to KPIs, so that we know based on your plan? I want to think of it like as a marketing agency, right? And the people of Guam are the clients.
Absolutely.
And when we go to the agency, we're like, hey, we're spending $5,000 a month. You're telling me I'm getting 25 costs per customer.
Yep.
What does that mean to me in regards to Senator Dwayne just asked, how do we quantify that into results, into economic benefits for the community?
So we do these forecasts and we compare to our actuals every single month. And so our forecasts, we have the very high optimistic level, the moderate level, and then our conservative estimates of just like a constant growth of, I think, like 2 or 5%. But Christian can go into detail about exactly where we are right now.
Right now, thank you, Senator. We're hovering around between conservative and moderate, about like 5% above conservative. And that's just in terms of volume. We also want to look at in terms of quality, right? So we're also trying to track in terms of yield, tourism yield. And we're thankful that we've been able to restart our exit survey program so we can collect some of that expenditure data from our visitors, especially from our source markets, our core markets, South Korea and Japan. And just from 2025, how we calculate yield is really how much economic value each visitor brings to Guam. And how we've been calculating it, we take the average on-island spend per person, and we divide that by the average length of stay per visitor. And this is all taken from our exit survey. In 2025, for Japan, that's about $86 per person per day. And in Korea, that's about $135 per person per day. For Korea, compared to 2019 pre-pandemic levels, Korea visitor yield per person per day was 126. So we're actually about 8% higher for Korea. And this is a particular market that we've been trying to provide airline incentives, especially in fiscal year 2025. But we're still continuing the work to increase that visitor yield for Japan as well. Because we've been seeing that double-digit growth from Japan for the past few months since June of last year. So while we want a lot more of them to come here, we also want to increase that economic value for each visitor that comes here to Guam.
Thank you for that. I want to go back to the IMEX discussion in regards to the just the travel arrangement. I guess my question in regards to, because one of the big, one of the questions I asked prior to this was just the amount. Obviously, it's on a travel. The reason it came up was it was on a travel report, right? Travel expense report. Is there a reason why we don't? Why that doesn't get paid like through a purchase order rather than the traveler being the one to pay for that and it comes up on their expense report? Is there a reason we do it like that? And any consideration that maybe, because I could see where, it's an expense. It's not yes, it's part of the travel, but it's not necessarily the traveler's expense. It's the bearer's expense. There's a reason why we do it like that.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to jump in and say, these are booked ahead of time, and so you're quite right. And I think it's a misclassification that lends a bad image on travel when it really is not travel, but it's the cost of participating in a show.
Yeah. So
but because there's a threshold, right? And maybe because this is on a traveler's expense report, it doesn't have to go through a port. Do you think that it would make more sense then that because of that large expense, and it's not necessarily regular travel costs that goes to the board for approval?
Senator, if I can shed some more light on that. So the reason why we record that as a travel report is actually based on a recommendation by the auditors. They audit our quarterly reports that we publish online, and they want to know, is this accurate? And so when they review that, they said, hey, you're right, you should actually put this because this is the cost that we incurred to send that person there. If that person never traveled, we would never have incurred those costs. And to your question about a purchase order, you did see that it was $26,000 for registration, booth materials, and then other fees. But when you look at the itemized expenses, the registration fee was $22,000, so that's below the $24.99 threshold. Everything else was $3,000 to $4,000. So from an itemized expense perspective, that would not have been, brought up to the board, even if we, did that.
Yeah. So then I guess my question, Mr. Chu, maybe you can answer this. I mean, would it, I guess, make more sense then? Because I mean, so if it was $100,000, that was the fee, then the traveler can go ahead and pay without any approval from the board? Is there a threshold on how much a traveler can go ahead?
It's all approved by the board. We present these things at the very beginning of the year. It's reviewed and approved by the board, and then we send it down here to be reviewed and approved by all of you folks.
Mr. Chu, are you going to say something?
As President Regine said, the board is provided a budget in the macro size, and it's been approved. As far as the detail line items, one by one, the board is not approving that because we don't see it. For example, the IMEX thing is under North America, $100,000 budget for travel, one lump sum, and the board has approved it. How's that $100,000 spent? We are not privy to that because that's decided by management and the president. So again, did the board approve it? Yes, the board approved it. The board approved it under the travel budget of North America, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was 100,000, or roughly about 100,000. But there's no, like I said, it's approved in the macro level, not in the micro level. Okay, thank you.
I don't think I have any more questions. Thank you, GVB, for coming down here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Bora. Vice Speaker, Adam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I really didn't have any questions earlier, but as the questions get answered, makes you wonder and have questions after. So, Madam President, of the $10 million that was used for airline incentives, how much has been drawn down already?
I'll defer to our CFO. So we received about $7 million from DOA, and then in terms of drawdown.
Senator, thank you for that question. In terms of drawdown, as of January 31, the expenses incurred were only to the Philippine market. So you're aware about the PAL incentive flight?
Yeah. Can you just move back from the microphone a little bit because it's muffling? Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it's just only for the Philippines market. So that cost was for the airline incentives for PAL.
So
as well as
Philippine
co-op.
Airlines got an incentive?
Yes.
They did? How much? How much was received by Philippine Airlines?
So, Senator, we have broken it up, and we've asked the committee if we could have an an opportunity. It's a little bit sensitive because we want to make sure that we have the upper hand when we're negotiating these deals. And so we don't necessarily want to disclose. We did provide some incentive money for the Philippine market, some for Korea, some for Japan, but we don't want to disclose the amount that we've given until we're completed with the work that we're doing with them.
Okay.
And we're
Continue with your
also
drawdown.
So we're also we continue to do work with Philippine Airlines, and the total amount paid out, it won't be until the end of the fiscal year when we do all of our accounting and we're able to say, because we're not going to pay them an incentive for maybe a day or multiple days where they didn't fly. Does that make sense?
Because I had a very interesting conversation with the president and CEO of Philippine Airlines. So
wonderful. If you'd like to share,
figure out how much you guys have. All right, go ahead and continue, please.
So there are no drawdowns per se, but we do accrue expenses as they incur, and the accrued expenses as of January 31 is $62,000 for the Philippine market.
I thought we couldn't release information. Go ahead. Okay.
Vice Speaker, one of the things that we need to be very cautious about here with this, because this is something over when we had the budget meeting here, or budget session here, is that we must be very careful because it's up to 50%. And remember, we had to pay because there was a misunderstanding. There was loss in translation.
Sorry, Senator. I think that's a different.
I know. But what
that was for the airport.
Yes, for the airport. Yeah. But what I was talking about is that, again, it's relevant because when we talk about incentives and we talk about up to, it's lost sometimes it's lost in the translation, and they just hear that 50%, and that's the letter that was written to us in the airport and said, well, you gave them 50%, you told us 50%, but that's not what we said. That's why, again, in your dealings, that's why we always want the airport and GVB to be together in this, so that they're on the same page, saying the same thing, because we don't want it lost in translation, because it already costs us an enormous amount of money in the loss of translation at that period of time. That was before your time, but anyway. Thank you, Mr. Vice.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So of the $7 million you received from DOA, how much has been expended already on airline incentives? We'll keep it general.
62,000.
Out of $7 million?
Yes.
You guys have only spent 62,000?
Right, and a lot of that is the timing. Sorry, for the
and
programs.
how much of that $7 million has been expended for other uses besides airline incentives?
So, Senator, there's airline incentives and there's marketing co-ops, right?
Yeah,
and
I understand, but I'm asking how much of the $7 million
not
has been
necessarily
used for other.
I think the question that
my question is how much of the $7 million has been used for other uses besides airline incentives?
The answer is zero.
Zero? Nothing has been used for anything else?
No. We specifically allocated.
I just want to remind you guys, you're under oath. Okay? So yes, absolutely, of course. But I want to make sure that we're not crossing our messaging here.
Absolutely.
Right? So
Senator,
of the $7 million that was used, that was drawn and given to GVB, was any of that $7 million for airline incentive used for any other programs? Marketing, anything?
So when we were given the $10 million, it was in airline incentives and marketing co-ops.
Absolutely
so that was
not.
the total. If you look at
Absolutely not.
The language in the Budget Act.
Yeah, I'll look at I'll read you the language in the Budget Act. The sum of $10 million is hereby authorized to be expended by the Guam Visitors Bureau and shall be utilized for airline incentive programs aimed at supporting tourism recovery and growth.
Thank
But
you
it
so much,
does not-
Senator. So in
it
our
does not-
presentation at the Committee of the Whole, and we can bring up our slides that we presented to the body, the Airline Incentive Program was a three-prong approach. So it was airline incentives, marketing co-ops, and then also a turnaround support program. So
But
all of those
I
are
understand what you're
encompassed.
saying, Senator, but the law specifically says airline incentive programs. It does not say airline marketing. It doesn't say
Our
what
airline
your-
incentive program is a three-prong approach.
I understand, but the law says airline incentive programs.
When we presented
So-
it, I need to make sure that we reiterate this. When we presented this idea and our pilot program to the Committee of the Whole, we presented it as the Airline Incentive Program. And that, again, is a three-prong approach that it encompasses both the airline incentives, the turnaround support program that we're doing in coordination, well, all of it is in coordination with the airport, and then also marketing co-ops.
Okay, so then of the $7 million, how much was used for marketing? And what markets?
So for the marketing co-ops that the president had mentioned, accrued is 16.4, for the Philippine market.
That's the only market you guys,
That's as of January 31, based on our financials, yes.
so of the 7 million, how much is remaining?
So, and to clarify, we've received 7.5 million.
Okay,
right?
of the 7.5 million, how much is remaining?
7.4, and I gotta run the numbers, to deduct it, but yeah.
So when you guys came before us in October during the budget session, you told us it was critical that this $10 million be used for airline incentive programs. Here we are in February going into March, and you still have a balance of $7.4 million that was received by DOA, with the remaining $2.5 million at DOA for the $10 million, right? So how is it that we were such in a critical position during the budget session, passing this bill, passing this incentive, but yet less than $50,000 or less than $75,000 has been expended?
Senator, if I may, I think it's your question. You're asking how much was expended. The question actually should be how much was committed. So we haven't been invoiced yet for some of the flights. In the Korea market, I believe we committed $5 million. That was for the Korean carriers for seats. We haven't expended anything, but it's committed to them.
So that $5 million, is that in addition to the Korean marketing fund that's in addition to? So how much are we committing to the Korean market?
The Korea market is our #1 source market.
But
So
how
we
much are
have
we committing in
a
total to the
portion
Korean market?
A portion from our overall airline incentives of $10 million, and then the Korea marketing budget.
Okay, so $5 million have been committed.
It's 10 million in total. In total, would be $10 million.
So we're committing $10 million to one market.
Yes. And then for Japan, we have a $4.4 million budget with $3 million committed for airline incentives, bringing their budget up to $7.4 million.
And Nate, what was the Japan marketing budget?
Pre-pandemic, about $8 million.
$8 million pre-pandemic. So.
And the Korean market pre-pandemic?
Not that much.
Yeah.
They weren't our major market.
So we went from not that much to $10 million now?
I want to say
the Japanese market prior to pandemic was at 8 million, and now we're less than 6 million for the Japan market.
Well, we're also adjusting for the state of our tourism industry. We need to be able to provide, like I said at the top of the hearing, we need to be able to provide airlift.
I understand, but
and incentivize that, Senator.
The current airlines that are flying in, like you said at the beginning, you have 40 buses that are coming, and only, we have 40 buses coming. Now we only have 24. But out of those 24 buses, the seats are not even full. So how are they going to commit more buses to come when they don't have the full capacity?
I think there's some, we need additional time to kind of go through this. But when we have the right balance of air capacity and load factor, it's actually, we're looking at, if I can pull up our arrivals from this week, we have about, I think it's 87% load factor out of Korea, Incheon, and Busan. So the planes are full, Senator.
And that's why we don't need the airline incentive now, because the airlines are full?
No, I think, I think, Senator, Vice Chairman, Vice Speaker, I think there's a miscommunication going on over here between your questions and the response of GVB management. I'm sitting over here, I'm listening to this, and I'm actually kind of entertained with the back and forth. But at the end of the day, what is our real target for GVB? We want to get back to where we were. I know the management hate to say it, so I'm not going to say the word. We want to get back to where we were at the peak. And in order to do that, even though we're showing double-digit growth right now from our Japan arrivals, we won't, with our current number of flights that we have from Japan, we won't reach 750,000 tourists a year. If we're coming in right now if you look at the Japan market, if you're looking at January if you look at January numbers, which is a 21% increase, where is it? Here it is, right here. Sorry, my eyes are bad. 23,000 tourists, okay? If we keep that same level of tourists for the rest of the year, you're gonna be under 300,000. But prior to when we were at our peak, we had 2 double daily wide bodies with 600 seats from Tokyo to Guam, along with a narrow body with another 150 seats. So Tokyo alone, we had 750,000 with one airline. Then you had other airlines flying in. The number of seats that we have from Japan far exceeded the number of seats that we have today. So we want to get to, if we want to continue to grow double digit and continue to bring the tourism market back up, we're going to have not just marketing money for Japan, but also airline incentives. So I think Nadine has already stated we have committed $4.4 million for marketing and another $3 million for airline incentives. The same for Korea. Korea right now, we also need to get to where we need to be at the peak of 750,000. Right now we're at probably what is that number I had right here written down? 20, probably about, well, we have, hold on, let me get that number for you real quick. Korea, we're doing slightly better. So 2025, we're at 50%, and we need to be at our peak at Korea. So we need more. We definitely need to say the Korean airline merger. Basically, I feel like the Korean Air play games with the Korean Civil Aviation Authority by backfilling all the seats in the last quarter of the year, and they're probably going to the Korean Airline Civil Authority now and say, hey, look at how many flights we flew in the last quarter, and we're only flying those seats. Some of those flights are only at 20-30% capacity, but they did that intentionally, I think. If you look at the first part of the year, they reduced the number of seats when they didn't have to. So they made a commitment to have 90% of the seats coming into Guam. It wouldn't go below 90%, but instead of taking those 90% of the seats and evenly spread that out throughout the year for Guam, they backloaded it to the last quarter of 2025. And then they're going to go back to their civil aviation authority and say, look how bad our load factor is. You're killing us. Don't force us to keep our 90% in order for you to approve the merger. So Guam needs to do a lot of marketing with our team in Korea, basically countering that argument, saying, no, you airlines did intentionally backloaded the seats, so to make it look like that the load factors are really bad. But if you spread those seats out over the whole year, I think we have a much better chance of filling those seats and getting more tourists into Guam. So that one, we have a commitment of $5 million for marketing and another $5 million for airline incentives to keep them flying. And as I stated earlier, if they're planes flying, there will be bodies in the seats of the planes. As long as there's bodies in the seats of the plane, our tourism numbers should go up.
So instead of airline incentives, right, would it be safe to say that maybe we should try and do, work with tour agencies out there or tour companies to sell Guam packages, tour packages to Guam? And how do we work that in that market, in the Korean market, to say, you know what, okay, the airlines are looking for the passengers, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
I'm going to leave that to my global marketing, Nadine, to speak about tour packages and the wholesale market and how the travel pattern has changed. So I'll let, either Regine or Nadine.
So, Senator, thank you again. So one of the slides of the marketing examples that we showed you included some of the programs that we worked with the travel agents, like the Kids Fly Free, the OTA, air tickets 1+1, influencer flash sales. So we are working with the agents, we're working with the consumers directly, promoting travel to Guam. We had early airfare discounts. We had working with our hotel partners, early check-in, late checkouts, whether it's free or heavily discounted. Our members, our hotel members, are supporting the programs.
Yeah. And because I met with a family here, a Korean family this is their 10th time to Guam, and I thank them for their repeated visit, but they came back and said, well, the only thing that we hope for is that we see different attractions when we come. Unfortunately, there's not. They have less businesses that are open today versus a couple of years ago, and what are we doing locally to boost our local product before we continue to invite folks here? I just got a text that there's a couple of companies that in Tumon again are clothing. I think Revive 23, and there's another store down there that's considering shutting their doors as well. So how do we continue to promote our destination when we don't have the activities or even the stores to attract high-end buyers, right? And we got duty-free that's considering or that will be closing. We don't know what's going to be the outcome with Lotte duty-free. We don't know how many more stores are going to be able to remain operational, and how much longer before we get our tourism market back up.
Yeah, Vice Speaker, I think that's definitely a challenge, but also a huge opportunity for us to figure out what it is that we want to highlight in terms of selling Guam. And there are a number of our GVB members who have stuck with us through the pandemic, continued to offer these experiences to local residents, to the military, and that's one of the reasons why we need to continue to work together, because it's a huge challenge, and we're marching uphill, but that doesn't mean that we don't have momentum and progress. And so we thank you for your support, and we want to continue to make these meaningful strides and include our local business community and help them to offer new things. I know that the chairman had mentioned a conversation that he had with another member of a GVB stakeholder that's looking forward to opening a new attraction. There are a couple of things popping up here and there. So there is, some glimmers of hope in the future, and we want to continue to build on that. But if we focus on all of the negatives and businesses closing, that's also a huge challenge for this legislature to tackle as well. So it's really going to take a whole of community approach. We all need to kind of be in the same boat, rowing together. And so I want to encourage you, and I want to thank you for your support thus far, but we need to continue pushing forward. I won't accept a fatalistic idea of the island of Guam that we're not able to do these things, and because it's so daunting. I know that you believe in a Guam where we all thrive, and so that's what I want to continue to focus on, and that's where we're going to continue to put our resources towards.
And definitely, and that's what we here at the 38th have done this past year in 2 months, has been very supportive of the different agencies, and especially GVB that's come before us, right, asking for incentives and funding to help boost our tourism economy. So yeah, that's not a question, and this is not meant to be a hostile environment or anything like that. We're going to move forward. We're going to continue to support our Visitors Bureau, but when we need the answers, that's all we're asking for, right? Is just come forward, tell us what is needed, what is not needed, and how is it that we can help each other. So in that way, when someone comes up to us and say, "Hey, did you know that they just pulled the wool over your head, and you can't see what's going on?" We can say, "No, we do know what's going on," because they were straightforward with us, and this is how we're addressing these issues. But we need to work as quickly as we can, because I'm not sure how much more the businesses in Tumon are going to be able to survive, and or businesses island wide. So as long as we can continue to, if there's some of that funding that you can use for marketing and turn around and say, "Hey, let's put some attractions outside of Tumon, let's do it and see what we can do." But thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to ask some questions, and I continue to work with the chair and GVB in moving our tourism industry forward.
Thank you, Vice. Before I turn it over to Senator Taitigui, just one question, jumping on what the questions that the Vice Speaker had as well. And earlier, Nadine, you said, of course, that because of the merger with the Korean Airlines situation, that we have not committed any funding because of the merger, and it was their government mandate for that to happen. But then we also say that we're going to be allocating $5 million to Korea. Now, my thing with that here is this, that, and earlier, Madam President had mentioned not being able to really mention how much money incentive we have Philippine Airlines. And I think with this, if I was an airline, if I was a Korean airline, knowing that I'm going to have $5 million at my disposal as an incentive, I'm not going to have to do any heavy lifting. I'm going to have you guys do the work, and I'll save in my advertising budget, because I'm going to tell you, well, we tried, but can you subsidize this? So for us to come out and say we're allocating $5 million to Korea does not really give them the incentive to advertise on their side. You guys are going to have to do all the heavy lifting. So I'm confused about saying that we're allocating this to Korea and maybe not giving them the incentive to fill up their planes because they have a guarantee of a $5 million allocation. So clarify that.
Thank you, Senator. So there are several carriers flying to and from Korea to Guam. Not every carrier is probably, well, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. Not every carrier will receive the same amount. It would be performance-based. So there's a lot to negotiate when it comes to the carriers.
Yeah,
so,
but you see, my thing is, if they know they have $5 million, okay, I'm allocating $5 million to Korea, whatever the airline may be. Okay?
Six airlines.
Oh, 6 airlines. Well, however there may be, we know. Okay, we know. I know. I'm just afraid that they're marketing themselves will not be as strong because, hey, we got a guarantee that we can ask them because we tried.
Yes.
You know,
I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
So it would be to their advantage or to their advantage to their pocketbook for that seat to be filled, right? They could rest on their laurels and just get the measly incentive that we're offering versus filling the seat and actually making more money. So it's to their advantage to sell the seat, not just receive a small amount from the island of Guam.
And Mr. Chairman, as she mentioned, a lot of these incentives are performance-based. So we have tiered levels of performance in terms of their load factor performance. So if they, for some of our incentive programs, if they hit, above 75% load factor, then it would be this amount. If they hit above 80, it's this amount. And then a super full flight, over 100% that includes lap children, then it's a certain amount. And so again, it really behooves our airline partners to do their best to deploy their resources to market these flights and to get folks to come and visit Guam. And that's really what the partnership is about.
Thank you very much. Actually, Senator, as we just got a message that we have to wrap this up pretty soon, so sorry about that.
Well, gee, thanks.
No, I'm giving you the time, no problem.
Golly, especially, like Regine mentioned, she's been on this side of the table, and I've actually been at GVB on that side of the table, so I know exactly what you guys are going through. I'd like to thank the airport that's here today as well, sticking it out with them and supporting GVB. They were here for you last week, supporting you. But first, let's get this straight. The lag in tourism recovery is not GVB's fault. Number one. Okay. But what we can do today is to provide a great destination for those who are coming here and continue to want to return. We've had one of the largest return rates during the Japanese market, and we're starting to see that in the Korean market. So with that being said, I just want to know how much are we spending right now in FY26 for destination management? What is that amount that you've set aside for destination management? Senator Vice Speaker Atta brought this up, and a lot of his questions he asked was exactly mine. And I'm like, oh gosh, I thought I had one left over. But yeah, destination management, exactly what he brought up. How much do we have for that?
Thank you so much for the question, Senator Taitigui. I'm going to defer to our CFO, but we also, we have in destination management, it's broken down into a number of different categories to include visitor safety, to include a number of our other destination management programs, our concierge service, and a number of other things. So I'll have Red respond. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Senator. So the total budget for destination development, which encompasses 4 departments, which is destination management, visitor safety, sports and events, and culture and branding, the total budget is $7.9 million.
7.9, right? How much did you put into it last year in FY25?
In comparison to last year, it was $6.4 million.
Okay, so we are increasing it a little bit more. That's good to hear. Yeah. Now, I did notice that in FY25, and this is to the CEO, what is your first name?
Rudd, R-U-D-D.
R-U-D-D, Rudd, right? I think one of my staff actually went to school with you when he heard your name. Okay, so Rudd, in FY25, it was projected of about $35.9 million in the tourist attraction fund, and what happened was we were like $5 million short. 5 million, okay. And then in what we're looking at 2026, we did a projection of 33, right? So we're looking at about, a difference of about, 5 million compared to each other, right? Or is it right? Am I doing the math right? Since you're the mathematician, about 3 million actually, right? Difference? Or 2.3 million difference, okay. So now we're starting to see in the Tourist Attraction Fund gain in this year a positive rather than a negative of 2.2 million from last year in December. So technically, if you think about it, we've actually gained 3 million because we're not short. And right now, we are trailing pretty well. What I didn't see in your presentation is the numbers with regards to the anticipation. And I know you guys, have your analysis and by the way, may I encourage you to start using AI when you're starting to do these programs. It'll help you do it faster, quicker, and, cut down on time. So integrate that into, so you might want to put technology under one of your budgets, put some money aside from that. But don't take it away from destination management, please, por favor. Okay. So that being said, what is the projected amount? Are you thinking we're going to hit our marker based on those projected revenues for FY26? We're already starting to see a trail.
Senator, that's a very good question. I think right now we're seeing a little bit of a bump. We had a good last quarter, which is the first quarter of the fiscal year, because of the Korean airline increase in seats. January was a great month because January is always good for tourism. February,
Well, it wasn't
so
last
far,
year. Yeah, it wasn't last year, though.
Yeah.
But now
So-
we're seeing that bump this year in January.
This year
Yeah.
we're seeing an increase in
so-
tourist attraction fund compared to last year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Big
so
time.
but is the trend going to remain for the rest of the year? That really all depends on how well GVD does marketing, but
It's not just marketing, it's
I'm just-
estimated.
I'm really worried about what's going to happen second quarter. I don't
Okay.
see the projection. If you check with the arrivals projected for tourism, I don't think they're going to be as good as what we're going to see so far in the first quarter of the fiscal year, and the second quarter of the fiscal year is going to be much better. So the trouble is going to come April, May, and June, right, Nini? Yeah. So then we'll see. Then we're going to have to pray that the military shows up to keep the hotel occupancy high, so that we can keep the tourist attraction fund money at the level that's projected.
So, Madam President, may I suggest to put an analysis together, actually, of your projected revenues that are coming in. What are we seeing is separating the two between, absolutely right about military coming in, and how much of that is filling our hotels versus how much is tourists filling our hotels. So we need to see that. I also like to see the numbers. You mentioned earlier in the slides on 34, October, November, I don't see projections. All I see is current and what's not projected. So it'd be nice to see projections, based on your findings as you're going through the fiscal year, not just what happened in 2025 and now 26, but those projections.
Sure,
and
Senator.
that lies too with the spending that you're doing. I do have concerns about this $10 million, the 7 that was given to Japan, the 10 was given to Korea. Is that what you said earlier? 10 or 5 million? Because I heard first 5.
It's 5 for incentives and then
Okay.
5 for our marketing budget.
Okay, so one thing that we can do, we can't really control the tourism market per se, but what we can do is be transparent. And that's what we're asking for. I don't think anyone is pointing the blame on anyone here. It's just, let's be transparent and see what we can do as a body to assist you. Now, we have with this money, but we, like Senator Vice Speaker said, we just want to see where that money is going. How much is going to marketing? How much is going to the incentives? One thing I've noticed too on the airlines is I'm seeing the prices of our airline tickets just go sky high, through the roof. I mean, to go to Honolulu itself now is almost $3,000 on economy. On economy. And I'm not even talking about Japan and Korea, the costs that are going up. I mean, what are we doing by having these incentives for airlines if they think they're going to get money from GVB to jack up their prices and make it even more difficult? So are we really subsidizing so that they can jack up their prices and make it very difficult? I'm not sure. It could be more than that, you know, but it is just unbelievable for anybody to fly to our tiny island here, our island paradise.
So a number of the negotiations, Senator, thank you for bringing that point up. As part of our negotiations with many airlines, we often talk about kind of the range that they set their prices at, because if we're going to incentivize them and then they're going to end up charging, like $1,500 or something from Incheon to Guam, that's completely unsustainable and we're not going to get anywhere. So we work with them on kind of a ballpark figure in terms of their so we just, in terms of their price setting.
Let's say a reasonable price to fly to Korea is like $400, right? And then you put an incentive there for $100, but now that Korea knows, or any of these airlines know, that we're going to incentivize, it's going to go up to like, oh, let's now charge $600 and have GVB give us more money to cover. So I'm glad to hear that. I'm really glad to hear that you negotiate those prices based on, you know, hopefully low season costs, you know, and then incentivize after that. So that's good to see. I mean, and hear for those who are asking, because man, everyone is freaking out about the costs, right, to travel. So that has a lot to do with it. The other one I have a question is, well, there was a comment that was made by the chairman regarding wanting to be a governing board versus, you know, an advisory board. You know, we've seen a lot of abuse from the board. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, a few years back, there was an investigation about board members who sit and have, you know, conflicts, voting on incentives and money that's given to areas that they are a part of, or just basically voting on things that's going to enhance their business, because the majority of people sitting on that board are people in the business that would love to have a bus stop made right in front of their business. So, you know, as far as, and then we're hearing not only that, but Mr. Chu, I'm hearing, you know, from not just the public, but even on certain areas, that you have an issue with Taiwan and that you are hindering the progress on Taiwan because of some kind of relationship with the Republic of China. I mean, things like that happen you know, we hear these things happen, and we have to ask. I mean, you're under oath right now, so first I have to ask you, are you hindering the Taiwan market, that you really don't want that to move forward or provide any kind of incentive? Is that true?
That's totally false, Senator, and I'm glad you brought this question up.
Okay.
Because I really don't understand. I'm anti-bad business. I'm not anti-Taiwan. My wife is from Taiwan.
Are you saying Taiwan is bad business?
Making the decision to allocate certain amount of money to Taiwan is bad business based upon the return that we were getting. We allocated $3 million for 2 flights a week. That comes out to a seat subsidy, and for 2 flights a week, we get 12,000 passengers. 12,000 tourists coming to Guam in 1 year. If we allocate the same money to another airline like Korea, we get 109,000 seats versus 17,000 seats. This is just bad. This is just bad business. It has nothing to do with I'm being anti-Taiwan. As I want to say again, my wife is from Taiwan. Why would I be anti-Taiwan? This is just certain areas.
I don't know. You might want to ask Homeland Security that.
You know, please be my guest, Senator. I have no idea what this issue is coming out to be. I've been pushing for marketing money for we dedicated $3 million for Taiwan, and then we want to put another $1 million in marketing money for Taiwan. I'm thinking, why would we want to push $4 million into Taiwan for 12,000 seats? You can do the math. Take $4 million, divide by 12,000 tourists. If you take the same amount of money and you get into Korea, you get 109,000 seats.
Yep. Well, I
So,
think
right, so I'm just saying, where should we, if we have limited resources, where should we be spending our money? Where should we be dedicating it? The question was coming out, how do we allocate our limited resources? We need to focus on where we can bring in the most tourists. And how much money do we allocate for the Philippines? At one point in time, our marketing budget for the Philippines was $40,000. And we have 16 flights a week from the Philippines to Guam. And we have 5 million, someone mentioned earlier, we have 5 million Filipinos with US visas?
1.5 million.
1.5 million Filipinos with US visas. And we have 16, if I'm not mistaken, now we have 18 flights if we include Cebu. 18 flights a week. And yet, all I hear about is let's market Taiwan, and I don't hear anything from GVB about how we're going to market the Philippines. Where should the money be spent? Should we be spending money where we have 18 flights a week, or should we be spending the money where we have 2 flights a week? That's all. That's all this is. This is a numbers game.
Mr. Chair, if I may continue, just because
how to maximize the return for our tourism.
Okay.
Guam. That's it.
Okay. Well,
I take it as a personal affront that you want to contact Homeland Security and questioning my loyalty to the United States of America. Yeah. I think that's rather insulting, Senator.
Well, that's, I'm just hearing, and I wanted to ask, since you're under oath, maybe you can justify those rumors and squash them here today.
Rumors are rumors.
Yep.
And I don't tend to. But I do
Mr.
find it
Chair,
rather insulting that you will bring that up, Senator.
George,
how long have you known me personally,
George,
Senator? That's
George,
the thing.
if I may finish, please. I don't have very much time, and I really hate, being in between dinner and everyone wanting to get out of here because we're over time. But it was, Guido would beg to differ when it comes to Taiwan market. It's not just tourists. It also brings the economy growth from Taiwan to this island. And to incentivize it is also very helpful for our economy, not just on tourism. So, that's an avenue that comes in that direction. We have MICE. We got to bring up MICE, sports tourism. We got to bring up other areas, and some places like that can bring that in rather than just those who want to bask in the sun on our beautiful beaches and swim on our beaches. So there's a lot involved there. Moving on, because I know I don't have that much time, or Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, just one more question I had regarding. Okay. Okay, so memory serving, economic growth. AI technology I brought up earlier about to assist GVB in moving forward and put aside in your budget bill technology. Okay, that wasn't part of your. So where is the projections on arrival? I'm looking at your 48 and 49. What is the percentage? Have you done, I guess this would probably be for Christian. Where's your percentage? You have a percentage marker for Japan and Korea, right? You're giving us 49 and 48 on that slide, but you're not doing it at a percentage. So you talk about how much, the Korean traveler pays, and then how much a Japanese traveler, not pays, but spends, and then a Japanese traveler, how much they spend. So my question is, even though the numbers are big in Korea, what is the spending power for a Japanese traveler and a Korean traveler? I remember we used to measure it that way, right, Nadine? Those were the days.
When we were calculating yield, right, so we have the spending, but we also want to, that kind of tells us how much economic value these visitors bring to Guam. But we also have to tie that with the foreign exchange rate, right? So in 2019, the Korean won was worth 1,165, or a US dollar. Yes, so that was the average exchange rate, 1,165. And then in 2025, the average was about 1,384. So that was an increase I just have to calculate specifically that percent.
This is my last question, Mr. Chair.
Sorry, Senator.
This is my last question. So, no, it's okay. Go ahead, Christian.
It is not working.
You're just hungry people in the room want to. Maybe next time we'll have that too. You know, it's
Yes,
important
Senator.
to see it. No
Sorry.
worries. No worries. I understand. I didn't.
My laptop died.
This is coming out to be more like a budget hearing than anything. But Madam CEO, President, you know, maybe we can get those numbers to reflect. It really helps us to see, you know, and when we're measuring, you know, how much money to put into a market, you know, it helps us understand that the spending power is what helps us. So,
Absolutely. Go ahead.
So Senator, while he's calculating,
Sure.
we did show up on the screen the on-island spend per person for Korea,
right.
which was at 543.17, so $543.17 for 25. And then for Japan, the on-island spend per person for an average of 3.3 nights was 285.49.
Why is it at 3.31 and Korea is at 4?
So Korean visitors stay 0.7 nights longer than a Japanese visitor would.
So that's why I was asking about the spending power,
Yeah.
you know, because it is quite different, you know,
Yes.
because you're getting that extra night.
Yeah.
You know, but what if they were equal on the both nights staying, you know, on that time? But anyways, it's a great measurement that we can see, and as I mentioned earlier, like to see your projected as well. Okay, on that. So, other than that, my favorite part of GVB, of course, is destination management, and I'm going to keep an eye on that, a strong eye on that, to make sure that we. You know, everybody who comes here, they have great selfies and they're texting their friends at home saying, you got to come to Guam. It's a great place. The people are amazing, you know, and the food, excellent, things like that. And that's how we can, you know, market that area, is just push on that destination management. So go ahead, Christian.
Yes, Senator. From 2019 to 2025 for the Korean won, they lost purchasing power by about 19%. And for the yen, that's about 33% since then.
I see. Mr. Chair, I was looking at their airlines here on GVB, and there is one airline I wasn't sure, I've never heard of. It's on page 20. What is 7C? Or is that 7C? So you have UA, it's on 20, page 20.
That's Jeju Air, Senator.
7C?
Yes.
7C is JU Air. Okay, thank you. That's all. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Tidegui. Yeah, before I ask GIAA for an update, just a couple questions here. You know, we've got a few calls from, well, first of all, there's a food item that's being marketed or being sold at almost a 7-Eleven type thing, GS25 in Korea. Is that a Guam product? Is that a Guam-made product?
No, it was a Guam-inspired product.
Guam-inspired product. Okay.
Yeah.
No, the reason why I'm asking this, so it's not Guam-related at all, just a Guam-inspired?
Essentially. I wouldn't say it's not Guam related because it's inspired by Guam.
Okay, but no Guam company, right?
No Guam company.
Okay. Now, the reason why I'm saying that, because some Koreans have told me this, that it's being sold, I think, at a GS25, something like that.
GS25,
Yeah.
yes.
And they told me it tastes like crap. And so, no, the reason why I'm saying this is because if we want to promote food and culture and all this, and they're using a Guam what do you call this?
Using our name, basically.
Incentivized food, and the Koreans are saying, well, the ones that are calling our office is that it tastes like crap.
Okay.
I mean, it's not doing us any
Yeah.
any good to say come and enjoy our food.
That wasn't
So,
the
so
feedback
I just
we
want
received.
to make sure that
Yeah.
maybe we'll say, hey, consult some of our maybe our chefs here, and maybe they need to visit that. So if you're going to use our Guam incentivized product over here, you gotta don't make it look like it. It's gotta not just look like it. It's gotta taste like it as well.
Okay,
Because
noted, Senator.
Because if Koreans are saying it tastes like crap,
Well, some
you
Koreans.
know, well, I mean the ones are calling anyway.
Well, we heard positive feedback, so
Really?
I'd love to tell. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I mean, maybe the taste buds are different, everything, but
Sorry.
the ones that are calling me have different taste buds.
I'd love to
Okay,
talk to
no,
them.
I just want to make sure that I didn't think that this was a Guam-made product.
It's not.
Yeah. Okay.
It's inspired.
Yeah. One other thing again is you guys launched 3 colognes in Guam colognes in Korea. Is that a Guam scent? Is that a Guam-made cologne? What does Guam smell like?
So there are 3 different scents that we had a perfumer create.
Who created it?
Do you want to?
Yes, there was a Korean perfumer that we worked with. We brought her here to Guam, took her around the island, and she created 3 Guam-inspired scents. One is focused on florals, and one is focused kind of on the jungle, and then another one that's focused on the coconut. And so we can send it to you. You can smell it for yourself.
Did GVB fund that? Is that the
So
GVB funding?
yeah, this is one of the co-ops that we did with a couple of other marketing groups in Korea, and then we also had a launch of the Scent of Guam with a number of our travel partners, and then we also launched a sports ambassador program at the same time. So we're trying to do a number of things in Korea to again create awareness, and this is a very famous and reputable perfumer. So that's one of the things that a lot of Korean visitors, and frankly a lot of visitors period, are really into. There's a number of different perfumes that people are buying. That's not really my thing or Nadine's thing. We both have allergies, so we didn't want to delve into that. But yeah, it's been successful, and we're looking forward to being able to market Guam in many different ways and appeal to a number of different senses. We did the taste of Guam. We did the scent of Guam now. There's a number of different ways that we're trying to market Guam in Korea and in our core markets.
What did that cost us? I mean, the perfumes. I mean,
we can get that information to you.
No, I just I just want to make sure, because if we're promoting this and it's a Guam product, a Guam name, I'm sure because it's not made in Guam, it doesn't have the Guam product seal, but it's got the Guam name, and so that it needs to be positive. Because I mean, maybe we need to promote it amongst the locals as well, so we know what Guam smells like.
That's correct, Mr. Chair, and also
three different scents, right?
I think Senator Taitigui will be happy to know this. So we've went through both of the board of GVB and the board of GIAA to provide additional work with some businesses in Taiwan, and so we're really going to be pushing Guam product seal things in Taiwan, and work together with an MOU and an RFP that we sent out. So we're going to continue to do these kinds of collabs and really promoting Guam product sales.
We're involved with GUMA as well, right? With GUMA, can we, if they're going to do something in these foreign countries, wherever it is, can we insist that they partner up with local folks here, so that way the local folks have the Guam product seal, but they also are part of an export. That's part of Guam's export.
Yeah, and that's why I mentioned GIAA and the
and I just need to make sure that what we're promoting out there is not just the name that's going to sell, but we make sure that they're in concert with producers out here, chefs out here, and cologne makers, scent makers, whatever it may be. I don't know what do you call them and stuff like that. I mean, maybe Jerry knows. Jerry was duty free. He knows what Guam scent smells like. I don't know, man. I'm just wondering if the hope is not just pull fat, you know, or something, you know. You know, 'cause I don't know. I mean, when I heard Guam scent, what does Guam smell like? So, you know, I mean, but
So the scents are designed to inspire repeat travel to Guam.
okay,
We're actually going to work with a couple of airlines, providing that as a small gift for their passengers to help them remember Guam and come back.
okay. I mean, so again, like I said, if we can work with you know, maybe with Guma, you know, and
We do,
yeah,
Senator.
no, but I mean, you know, because one of the challenges that Guma has, I mean, with our local products or, you know, manufacturers, whatever it may, they're called at this point, is export.
Yes.
Okay, and the cost of export.
Yeah.
So if they can team up with a company over there, you know, and say they you know, part of it is made here, whatever it may be, you know, it'd be great. It'd be a win-win. So, you know, they're using our name, but the company that they partner with out here, you know, has you know, that way we can promote, you know, our export as well.
Yes. So there's an event in June called Food Taipei that GVB actually had organized for several years, where we get made on Guam products. We send them over to Taiwan, and we set it up so that people, importers in Taiwan, can try that. So we absolutely believe in our made in Guam products. I think Mark Muir said I'm his favorite customer. So we absolutely work with our made in Guam products. And
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, before we close out, I want to, again, get an update from the airport from last week as to where we're at. I know we had some last minute, and that, again, forced us to come into the continuation of our oversight, and just from the airport perspective.
Chairman, may I just want to make one last comment before I leave the table here, in regards to Taiwan. We, GVB and I personally actually flew to Chicago to meet with United Airlines to try to encourage them to add one more flight from Taiwan to Guam instead of twice a week. We're trying to push them to do 3 times a week. And I know at many meetings that I've had with GVB, we've always consistently asked the status of China Airlines on whether or not they will be willing, which is the national carrier for Taiwan, if they will be willing to restart their flight back to Guam, which is also twice a week, so that we can get United Airlines to 3 times a week from 2 times a week, and get China Airlines to fly twice a week, so that we can have 5 flights a week from Taiwan to Guam. Okay, so that's still a market that we want to have. We don't want to lose it. And but again, the amount of money that we're dedicating to it, we need to get as many flights as we can. If we can allocate some of that money to a different market, such as the Philippines, which has 18 flights a week, I think it's money resources well readjusted to where we could get better return.
Great.
Okay. And for example, the amount of money we dedicated to get 2 flights a week, I think we've spent a fraction of that to get 2 flights a week from Cebu to Guam, which is, I don't know how the load factor is, but it's doing very well from what I understand. Okay, so yeah, we want as many flights from as many countries as possible coming into Guam.
And likewise, like we're at it as well with maybe United, maybe in conjunction with GVB and the GIAA, that maybe because now we build out the runway, maybe they can fly maybe a couple days a week nonstop to
San Francisco to
US.
Guam. Yeah,
so,
we even talked to United about that when we were in Chicago, to try to get them to see the possibility of using the longer runway at the Guam Airport Authority to fly nonstop San Francisco to Guam.
There we go.
For the U.S. military, that will free up seats from Japan to Guam for tourists versus right now they're doing transits via Narita. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Airport Authority, could just identify yourself again and just give us an update on if there's anything new.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and the members. Frank Santos, TMG, with their consultants with the airport. I'm here together with our acting executive manager, Daphne Shimazu. And real quick, from last week's part 1 of our oversight, there has been no change or no updates except for one item. And the one item has to deal with the specialty retail concession. And we are in discussions with a third party. If you noticed, there was correspondence between the governor and DFS. So now we are in active discussions with Lotte, the third party. And that's the update.
And yeah.
Oh, wait.
And one thing also I know, and thank you, Senator, I'm sorry, thank you, Mr. Chair, for allowing us to come up and give an update. We also do have on our board meeting agenda an item which will allow the board to discuss an amendment to the settlement agreement. So we do have a board meeting scheduled for this coming Friday, February 27. And so, of course, there was discussion about the possibility of a special board meeting, but we were already having a board meeting in this Friday. And so that was added as an agenda. That was already, first publication, I think, went out for that particular meeting on this past Sunday, but our meeting is this Friday.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Again, I just want to reiterate, okay, because I know Gita's not here, but Gita and GVB sent a letter, and Gita sent a resolution alongside a bill to the legislature for possible introduction. But we don't want to. We're not going to move on this. We don't know what's going on at this point. And I'm just saying that if in fact you go the legislative route at this point, okay, it's going to be impossible to get it into the March session. We're going into the session at the end of March. The Committee on Rules are going to be meeting, I think, next week. Next week. It's going to be impossible to get in. You still have to have a public hearing. The next meeting or the next session will be in May. The concession contract expires July. Lotte is a big company, a very big company, that they're not just going to, the night before, they're going to decide not to leave. I mean, they've already had an exit plan. So, again, time is not in the airport's hands. It's not in our hands as well. My only recommendation, and highly recommend this, if you're going to go that route, it has to be the governor's office that will send it down as soon as possible. And call us into special session, because otherwise you go the legislative route, it's going to take, they're going to be out of there before you know.
If I may just ask, there was mentioned earlier, Frank, that you said you're in a third-party negotiations. Is that what, did I hear, is that like third-party, meaning is that Lotte you're in negotiations with?
Yes, that's
okay,
correct.
so Lotte at this point may not renew and just want to negotiate a brand new contract. Is that true?
That's the discussions that are going on now.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I interject? Also, in the last oversight hearing, we asked about that February 6th letter. Can you provide that to all of the senators? I haven't seen it.
It was in your packet. It was in your packet. Oh. It was in your packet, but if you don't have it, we'll make sure that your office gets it.
Thank you.
And any other senator that didn't have it, yeah, it was in the packet. But if it's missing, we'll send it to you. Okay. Anything else? Anything else, senators? Okay, let me say, yeah, again, last year we were of course, we're still kind of in a semi-crisis mode, right? Today we are starting to stabilize, and that's progress, right? Visitor arrivals are moving in, of course, the right direction. Air service is improving, so there's definitely momentum there. But the momentum is not guaranteed. The future, of course, of our island is at stake. Tourism is not just a talking point, it's the backbone for thousands of paychecks, the survival of course, small businesses, and stability of our broader economy. That is why, again, I support oversight unapologetically, because Guam cannot afford failure. So these tough conversations about spending, governance, coordination, and long-term risk are necessary. We are not here to tear anybody down or any entity down. We're here to ensure that there's discipline, alignment, and accountability. If we get this right, coordination holds, spending is disciplined, governance is clear, and concessions project long-term revenue. Guam's recovery will continue in the right direction, and it will accelerate. Written testimony, again, can be submitted to my office via email, senator.lujan@guamlegislature.gov. Again, with that, thank you very much to, of course, Guam Visitors Bureau. Thank you for coming here today and bearing with us the last, last week. Was it last week? we had it. And GIA, thank you again for coming back and updating us. And sorry, I know that we couldn't have Gita here today, but their update, they didn't have anything current. With that being said, this oversight hearing is hereby adjourned. It is now 5:28 p.m. Thank you very much. Do this, Mossy. Have a great, safe evening, everybody.